number one ranking. We'll have details at around 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Top story, protesting on the KZN South Coast. It's on the N2 at Hibberdeen, burning tyres and a traffic backlog both directions. If you're going between Durban and Port Shepstone through that Hibberdeen area, it might be worth travelling a little bit later this morning. The protest action is just north of the town of Hibberdeen, but there's some backlogging going on both ways through there. Otherwise, it's back to school Wednesday, so back to traffic, full-time traffic as we get those schools reopened and much more traffic about to hit the road, so give yourself time to get through it. There are some queues on the N3 north at Spruitview coming into Joburg. That's quite a backlog if you're arriving in from the Vosloorus area. And into Cape Town, we go with a very busy N2. Traffic queuing up at Khayelitsha. And then there's more queues from the airport through to around Jan Smuts Drive exit. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The National Briefing on SAFM. Clarity, context, and conversation. This is where the day begins with Cathy Mohlahlana on the National Briefing.
Well, South Africa, as you wake up this morning, millions of learners and parents, as you've heard from Rob Byrne, back into routine as schools reopen. Alongside that, we're tracking a number of major stories shaping your morning. Well, what is really driving the shifting allegiances and political configurations in Gauteng? Coalitions are no longer the exception, they are the reality. But are they about governance or simply about power? That's our big story for the morning. We'll unpack those political shifts in the 7 o'clock hour of the national briefing. We'll also turn to Cape Town, where a series of deadly shootings in Mitchell's Plain has once again raised urgent questions about safety in gang-affected communities. There has been military deployment in these areas, but is it making any meaningful difference on the ground? And globally, there's signs of a fragile pause in tensions between the United States and Iran, with a 2-week ceasefire agreed and talks set to begin. Is this a genuine de-escalation or just a moment of calm before the next phase of the storm? All that and more as we get your morning started.
You are listening to the National Briefing with Cathy Mohlahlana.
SABC2 is bringing the heat. New shows, new faces, and stories that hit home, like the one I'm in called Pimville. And that's where you can catch me, Michelle Masalakai, every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. Live in every beat, the pulse of SA.
It's Elimination Week on Color Your Plate this Sunday evening at 7. The bottom 4 duos face their toughest challenge yet, a mystery box breakfast that could send them home. With ingredients revealed on the spot and pressure mounting, teamwork and quick thinking are everything. Only the strongest duos will survive. Who will survive to cook another day? Find out on Color Your Plate, Sundays at 7. Repeat Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. only on SABC2.
For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Briefing on SAFM. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
You're listening to the National Briefing with myself, Cathy Mohlahlana, with you until 9 o'clock this morning. As you've heard, some of the key stories we'll be tracking for you throughout the morning. We, of course, invite you to be part of this national conversation. The number to dial this morning, 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032 for our studio line. On the WhatsApp line, 0614 104 107. That's where you can send your WhatsApp voice notes and text messages as you answer some of the questions we're asking throughout the show on the different issues that we'll be tackling. Before then we get into the updates from around the world. Let's start with the front pages of the newspapers. I've got the Sowetan in front of me. Why were heist dockets at his home? Sergeant Faninkosi seemingly in more hot water. He appeared in court yesterday. He's now detained in a prison hospital wing after telling the court that he fears for his life. When police raided his home, they uncovered robbery and hijacking case files that were hidden under a mattress. Or in fact, the case files were hidden in a Wendy house, but they found 50,000 rand in cash hidden under the mattress. What do people keep under their mattresses? South Africa? All right, on the front page of the Cape Argus, gangs are too clever for SANDF and SAPS. And it's a story we'll be unpacking a little bit further in this hour. It's as we look at the latest deadly shootings to come out of Mitchell's Plain. This is despite the deployment of the army to that area. So how meaningful then is that deployment if it's not going to bring an end or have a significant impact on this kind of violence? It happened in broad daylight, is among part of the concerns of the residents in the area. So we'll unpack that closer to the top of 7 o'clock. And on the front cover of the Business Day this morning, First Rand's worst fears come to pass, and the group weighs possible exit from UK consumer finance as it hikes provisions to 17.7 billion rand. There's also another story that the Business Day is covering on its front page. Industry wants to see maths behind low drug price hike. And that's just a story detailing some of the developments in the pharmaceutical industry. So that's just a look at some of the stories that are leading the front pages this morning.
The National Briefing on SAFM with Cathy Mohlahlana.
Well, from the front pages to your weather, a sense of what you can expect weather-wise this morning. In terms of the warnings that have been issued, there remains a yellow level 2 warning, severe thunderstorms with strong damaging winds, hail, excessive lightning and possible heavy downpours leading to localized damage to property, vehicles and livestock, as well as localized flooding are expected over the east central parts of the Northern Cape. Extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over the Swartland, Bergrivier, Drakensberg and Beaufort West municipalities in the Western Cape. There are no advisories this morning. In Pretoria, the weather's cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, minimum 15, maximum 25. The expected UV sunburn index is moderate. In Johannesburg, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, minimum 15, maximum 23. Vereniging is cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, minimum 14, maximum 24. Mbombela, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, minimum 16, maximum 23. In Polokwane, the weather's cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, minimum 17, maximum 20. Mahikeng, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, minimum 14, maximum 24. Vryburg, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, minimum 16, maximum 24. Bloemfontein, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, minimum 14, maximum 25. Kimberley, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, minimum 16, maximum 26. And Upington, also cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, minimum 22, maximum 29. In Cape Town, the weather is fine, becoming partly cloudy in the evening. The wind light to moderate northeasterly, maximum of 20, minimum rather of 20 and a maximum of 32. That's out in Cape Town. The expected UV sunburn index is very high. In George, the weather is fine, becoming partly cloudy from the evening. The wind light to moderate northeasterly, minimum of 12 and a maximum of 26 degrees. In Gqeberha, the weather is fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon. The wind moderate to fresh easterly, minimum of 13 and maximum of 27. In East London, the weather's partly cloudy, wind moderate to fresh northeasterly, but strong in the afternoon, a minimum of 16, maximum of 27. In Durban, it's partly cloudy, wind moderate to fresh northeasterly, minimum 19, maximum 26, and the expected UV sunburn index is high. In Richards Bay, the weather's cloudy with isolated morning showers and rain. Wind moderate to fresh northeasterly, minimum 19, maximum 27. And in Pietermaritzburg, your weather is in Pietermaritzburg, there's morning and evening fog expected for today. Otherwise, the weather partly cloudy with minimum temperatures of 12 and maximum of 26.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. The Global Briefing on SAFM.
Well, taking a look at some of the international news overnight, Iran says it has agreed to a 2-week ceasefire in the conflict with the US and Iran in the Middle East. Those negotiations are set to begin on Friday in Islamabad in Pakistan. It follows pressure from the US President Donald Trump, who threatened further military action unless Tehran reopened the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global oil route. Iran says safe passage through the strait will now be allowed, but only under coordinated efforts with its armed forces. Joining us for the Global Brief this morning, Dr. Kingsley Makhubela, a former South African diplomat and international relations expert. Dr. Makhubela, good morning to you. Firstly, in terms of what this ceasefire signals in this US-Iran conflict, what does it all mean?
Good morning, Cathy. Actually, if you look at the social media of President Trump, he has given in to all the demands that Iran wanted in this context. That included, of course, the long-term peace agreement. That's what Iran has been insisting. They do not want a piecemeal ceasefire with the United States and Israel to go back and regroup and come and attack. So Iran has achieved major victory. And I think there's been a clear intention to give President Trump a face-saving retreat on his apocalyptic threat against Iran. So it's a win for everyone. Literally, if you have a peace agreement, it's a win for everyone. but it would be incorrect for anyone to think that Iran capitulated. If you look at the events, you look at the press statement, the 10 demands that Iran is having, and it has been reassured those demands would be put on the table.
Why a ceasefire then for 2 weeks if indeed there has been concession around the long term agreement to a pause and an ending of this conflict is what Iran wanted?
You know what's coming out, Kathy, is that this 2 weeks that actually Trump is talking about is to ensure that within 2 weeks there's a peace treaty on the table with long-term peace, not only in Iran, in the entire Middle East, that would cover events in Lebanon, that would cover people in Yemen. So Iran has achieved what it wanted, and those has been the precondition of Iran, that it cannot agree to a temporary peace ceasefire to later be attacked. So the race is against time now to ensure that there's a full peace treaty. We are yet to hear or to get detailed official statement of the modalities that are going to work out in this regard. But quite clearly, Iran has achieved a maximum of what they wanted.
There is a power play dynamic also unfolding before our eyes. And certainly for somebody like the US President Donald Trump, it does seem important for him to be able to claim the ultimate victory, to be able to say that he influenced things in this direction and that he, in fact, is the one that should be applauded for even having reached this ceasefire agreement. What do you think that does for the context of this conflict? And why does that add a different dynamic to how this war or conflict has been unfolding?
You know, Kathy, if you look at events of the last 24 hours, the Security Council resolution, the double veto that you've seen at the Security Council, and the reasons that are given, particularly by the Russian Federation and China, that you need to resolve the root causes of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. You cannot resolve Strait of Hormuz without resolving the illegal attack or invasion of Iran. They've been insistent saying that. So that has been achieved to a large extent, that the invasion is the root cause. And I think if you look at even the tweet of President Trump, there's an acknowledgement, inherent acknowledgement in that statement, that you need to resolve the bigger picture in order to resolve the question of Hormuz. Iran insists on retaining sovereignty and control over the access, particularly the deep side of the Strait of Hormuz, which is very useful for the movement of oil tankers and so on. So there has been a victory, but you know, in any conflict, Kathy, you need to apportion the level of success to both parties. But President Trump has been facing serious backlash following his statement to erase Iran from civilization. Even within the United States system, members of Congress have been up in arms. I mean, Senator Schumer actually wanted to recall Congress to come and really look at this, because Congress is in recession now. So there's been a lot of backlash around the world. There's been backlash on the statement. People have been looking at really the statement is tantamount to a commitment to commit war crimes. So there's been a fallback in terms of the statement. You've seen earlier statement by J.D. Vance saying that we have achieved all our military target. It's contained in the statement of President Trump, and he's been saying it for quite some time, that he's hit all the target. There's nothing more to hit. So he has achieved his military victory, and that's a graceful way for him to withdraw from the continuing attack on Iran.
Dr. Makubela, I'm quite interested in the fact that this conflict is now being coined as the US-Iran conflict. About a month ago, we were talking about the Israel-Iran conflict. Israel seems to all but disappeared within the main discourse of this conflict. Why is that the case? And And how has this shift happened?
You know, Kathy, it is acknowledged, and everyone knows that this conflict can be resolved by the United States. And without the United States, Israel won't be able to continue this conflict. They get their armaments, they get their funding from the US. All the equipment they are using comes from the US. The defense equipment has been decimated as we're talking. They have no defense equipment. They've been exposed. Hezbollah has made inroads in terms of northern Israel. So it's quite clear that in order to resolve this, you deal with the US, and the US would have to bring Israel on board. And remember, if Israel continues these attacks, the Iranians are going to retaliate because the Iranians have taken a strategic decision that they would retaliate in kind. There's been attack the last 2 days in Shiraz and other areas of Iran. And the Iranians actually have launched a barrage of missiles last night against Israel. And there's been indications that actually this attack that Iran launched last night has been really unprecedented. So quite honestly, it's a responsibility of the United States to bring Israel in line with the agreement. And I don't think Israel would have any choice in this.
Let's come back home now. Today, President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to receive letters of credence from heads of mission designates in Pretoria. This is usually a very quiet affair that takes place behind the scenes. But we know that there is some interest in it this year, particularly because of the United States.
Well, I don't know, Kathy. Are you there, Kathy?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes.
You know, there's a public interest around the presentation of letters of credentials by the United States, given the utterances that came from the US and what the ambassador or the ambassador designate said since his arrival in South Africa. But quite honestly, you're quite correct. We're not going to get a detailed discussion about his behavior. That may follow later on in a quiet meeting if he sought to get audience with the president to have detailed discussions around those issues. Also to map out even his intention to improve the relations between the two countries. His fundamental task now is to improve diplomatic relations between the two countries. If he doesn't do that, he would have failed in his task because that's essentially the task of the ambassador.
Are you expecting that there will be anything significant beyond what we have seen already? Because when we look at the statements that Ambassador Bozal has made following those controversial remarks, he does seem to have backtracked quite significantly and, towing the diplomatic line.
Well, he retracted the statement. He even went further, which is very much unprecedented, to apologize. Usually, states don't apologize to each other. They either retract or they regret. But to issue a wording that says apologize, they don't do that. But that shows that he's new in the diplomatic field. He's new in the use of the diplomatic statecraft. I think he's learning as time goes on. He has bent his fingers already. It's created a bit of an uproar about him. I don't know if that was intentional. I wouldn't think it was intentional on his part. But I think he's learned a lesson. Now he will start to freely communicate with people across the South African state about what does he intend to do to improve relations between the two countries. He may have a very positive message that he wants to convey around. And I think if he comes across as such, he would find a lot of South African across the political divide who would support him in improving the relations between the two countries. Because the relations between South Africa and the United States is very fundamental, it's crucial, but it can't be done at all costs from the South African perspective. South Africans would have to retain some level of pride. South Africans can't go on and accept the fact that the Americans are saying there's genocide and say, well, we will correct genocide. South Africa will keep on pushing back on that. So there are things that he's going to find a pushback. He's going to find a pushback in terms of the ICJ,
Okay.
which I think a lot of countries have not joined South Africa's case.
Dr. Kingsley Makhubela, let me thank you for your time this morning, former South African diplomat and international relations expert. So the question to you this morning is, what does the US-Iran ceasefire signal to you? What does it signal to you? And I'm keen to hear from you, especially following that analysis by Dr. Makhubela. The number to dial this morning, 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, send those voice notes on 0614 104 107. Anne Musa is standing by with your headlines. Good morning, Anne.
Good morning. Thanks, Cathy. In the headlines, Tshwane Metro Police Chief Yolandi Farrow is expected to continue testifying at the Madlanga Commission this morning. Yesterday, Commissioner Farrow testified about allegations of corruption in the city of Tshwane relating to tender procurement processes in the Metro Police Department. A man has died and 2 others were seriously injured in what's believed to be a case of mob justice in the Eastern Cape. The men were beaten, set alight and left next to a road. And Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif has confirmed a 2-week ceasefire has been agreed on between the United States and Iran, hours before the US President Donald Trump threatened a major escalation against Iran's civilian infrastructure. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Top traffic story. Protesting at Hibberdeen. Protesters out this morning on the N2 with burning tyres blocking that road in both directions. There's some queues north, very heavy, and it looks like a full closure on the southbound. So if you're on your way through to Port Shepstone approaching Hibberdeen, it's all heavily backed up. There is a little bit of protesting further north of that as well. Just up towards the next exit after Hibberdeen, there's more burning tyres there. So anyone wanting to travel Durban, Port Shepstone, maybe just hold back a little bit, let the authorities deal with that, get it cleared, and get the road reopened. Into Joburg we go with heavy pressure this morning at Spruitview. If you're driving in from Heidelberg or in from Phosphorus area, that run towards the Heidelberg Road, very heavy. And queues coming in from the other side of Joburg on the N12. This is the Potch Highway if you're leaving Protea Glen. Just sort of after Lenasia as you get up towards the Golden Highway, Eldorado Park exit, very heavy. Breakdown on Pretoria's N1 South just past the Sefako Makato on-ramp. That is causing a delay coming out of Montana on Sefako Makato to get into that N1 South as well. And Cape Town, well, you can see schools have reopened, not only in Cape Town but everywhere. You can see schools are reopened by the traffic volume. It is a lot heavier this morning. Give yourself time to get through it. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning, Zai Khan. Let's recap some of the soccer action from last night. Mamelodi Sundowns, they've strengthened their grip at the top of the Betway Premiership.
Yeah, Kathy, Sundowns, they don't ask for much, just one goal, 3 points secured. So that was their win last night. Yes, very much returning top of the Premiership table. Katlego Nsabeleng's early strike proving decisive there as Masandawana created several chances but were kept to a single goal. Durban City, they showed glimpses of a fight, but Sundowns' control and their experience ensured they walked away with all 3 points. Final score, Mamelodi Sundowns 1 and Durban City 0. Elsewhere, Orlando Pirates kept their title hopes alive with a 5-0 victory over Golden Arrows at Orlando Stadium. For Arrows, the heavy defeat was a missed chance to strengthen their top 8 position, though they remain 8th ahead of Saturday's KwaZulu-Natal derby against Durban City. And we also have news with Richards Bay. They snapped their losing run with a 2-1 win over Stellenbosch at the Richards Bay Stadium. And we also have action from last night with regards to the UEFA Champions League. Bayern Munich claiming a 2-1 win away to Real Madrid in their quarter-final first leg. Goals from Luis Diaz and Harry Kane gave the Germans control before Kylian Mbappe pulled one back to keep Madrid in the tie. Meanwhile, Arsenal left it late with Kai Havertz scoring in stoppage time to secure a 1-0 victory over Sporting Lisbon. And do remember that SABC Sport will bring you all the FIFA World Cup action. Now, the action is set to take center stage from the 11th of June to the 19th of July 2026. The tournament will be broadcast live on SABC3, SABC Plus, and SABC radio stations. And finally, tennis news. Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz continuing their battle for the world number one ranking with commanding wins at the Monte Carlo Masters. Fresh from his Sunshine double win, Sinner demolished Ugo Humbert 6-3, 6-love in just 64 minutes. Alcaraz, the defending champion, he eased past Sebastian Baez 6-1, 6-3 in his first clay match since last year's French Open final victory, and that victory was over Sinner. And that's your sport. We'll be serving it up some more at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Market Brief with Ndauleng Lechela on SAFM.
Good morning in Tauleng. We're seeing the markets this morning already responding to that US-Iran ceasefire.
Good morning, Cathy. You're absolutely right. The oil prices in particular falling back below $100 a barrel, with Brent declining 14% to around $94 as a last-minute shift in turn between the US and Iran eases fears of a prolonged supply shock. Now, the announcement, of course, by President Trump came less than 2 hours before his self-imposed deadline, a moment that had been building with severe threats, including warnings that an entire civilization could be wiped out if Iran failed to act. Instead, Trump agreed to a 2-week pause in military action, pointing to a 10-point proposal from Iran that he says could form the basis of a broader deal, with many sticking points already addressed. Iran has in turn indicated it will allow safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz during this period, adding that access would be maintained as long as attacks on Iran stop. Now, the strait carries about a fifth of global oil supply, and its disruption had driven recent price spikes. Markets are finding some relief in this pause, though uncertainty persists as negotiations could still swing in either direction.
Of course, the airline industry in Tauleng still seems to be quite a long way off from recovery.
So oil prices may have eased, Cathy, but airlines are warning that high jet fuel costs are still biting. I mean, here at home, we've heard from FlySafair and SAA, who have started, or rather last month, started applying temporary fuel surcharges that also playing out internationally. Since the conflict began, prices have nearly doubled, creating both a cost squeeze and concerns over supply. Now, with the Western Hemisphere's peak travel season approaching, the challenge is no longer just costs, it's whether there will be enough fuel on key routes. Major carriers are taking action. Germany's Lufthansa is preparing contingency plans that could include grounding aircraft and cutting flights if supply tightens. In the US, Scott Kirby has flagged potential reductions on long-haul routes, particularly to Asia, where refueling is most constrained. So yes, oil prices easing, but it does seem like the damage has been done. Now, taking a closer look at what's played out over in the stock markets, sentiment has been downbeat. It is important to note that most markets closed before President Trump's deadline, and the nervousness was reflected in activity, with stocks in the US closing flat overnight. Back home, the JSE plunged into the red. Losses are driven by lower platinum group metal prices, with miners like Impala Platinum, Valterra, and Northam in negative territory, leading to a near 1% decline in the all-share. Tracking currency markets, which operate around the clock, the rand showing a shift in sentiment, reflecting how currencies respond immediately to major decisions. Now, the local unit is trading stronger this morning from around 16.92 the dollar yesterday to 16.46 this hour. We are seeing broad-based gains. The rand just above 22 to the pound and 19.21 to the euro. Lastly, in Asia, stocks kicking the day off in positive territory, of course, being fueled by easing oil prices following the US-Iran temporary ceasefire.
That's Ntauleng Lichela with your market brief. More from her in the second hour of the show.
Sharp, sharp.
Africa in Focus with Advocate Sipho Mantula on SAFM.
Advocate Mantula, good morning to you. I don't know if we've quite given you the African drum that you've asked for. Advocate Mantula specifically asked for the sound of an African drum in his intro segment. Are we almost there?
Refreshing morning, Sis Cathy, Jumbo Africa, Dumelang. No, indeed, Sis Cathy, Africa, it is the beat. We know we are the beat of this continent. We are the beat of the world. Hence, we have to have that musical drum. Just to remind listeners that you are on the national briefing, Africa in Focus.
Absolutely. So, Advocate Mantula, let's turn our attention to South Sudan. Some political shifts there. Why have the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker of Parliament been given the chop?
You know, Salva Kiir, he's not doing this for the first time, Sis Cathy. Last month also he fired the finance minister. Now this week he fired the speaker and the deputy on allegations of leadership challenges, accountability. Others are saying corruption within parliamentary funds that have pushed this first woman to be the Speaker of Parliament since 2021, German Nkumba. Now he has been replaced with Joseph Ngere Basiko and Abuka Baiti Agiti. These are the new Speaker and the Deputy Speaker of the government of the South Sudan. This is worrying because you are removing the women who are chairing the parliament, and there are issues of elections also that are being delayed in that country. And that's where we see Salva Kiir pulling and pushing his cabinet and now getting into the parliament.
We're also seeing some finger pointing between the government and opposition parties just in our neighboring Zimbabwe. What's behind it?
Remember the famous constitutional bill amendment number 3 that caused chaos, and now coming from the Treasury unit of ZANU-PF, Patrick Chinamasa, alleging and labeling that the cabinet hearings that took place since last week, there were tensions and confrontation that were caused by the opposition. But if you listen to the opposition, both Tendai Mbiti, your Professor Lovemore, you'll hear a different story. But here, Chinamasa goes to the Twitter streets alleging that they were agents of provocateurs, there were people who were naive about this constitutional amendment bill number 3. This is very contentious, considering that these are the issues that are they trying to extend Mnangagwa's presidency, and at the same time Chiwenga is waiting basically to be the next president, and that's where you find this bill. It's very contentious. It has divided Zimbabweans actually. You see even the military generals are also watching that space of the constitutional and the rule of law of Zimbabwe.
Advocate, let's then look at this day in history.
So, I'm looking at yesterday, despite that we might not look at, but it's 100 days if you have to look back at the question of Rwanda, the Rwanda genocide of 1994. It's almost 32 years. Now the international community celebrates this day to reflect the genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda. You'll recall in a Swahili word in Rwanda, they call it Kibuka, which means to remember. And this remembrance is going with reflection and renewed commitment in the land of Kigali in Rwanda. Asante sana Siketi, as still leading the conversation, SAFM.
Advocate Sipho Mantula, thank you for that Africa in Focus brief.
It's Elimination Week on Color Your Plate this Sunday evening at 7. The bottom 4 duos face their toughest challenge yet, a mystery box breakfast that could send them home. With ingredients revealed on the spot and pressure mounting, teamwork and quick thinking are everything. Only the strongest duos will survive. Who will survive to cook another day? Find out on Color Your Plate, Sundays at 7. Repeat Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. only on SABC 2.
You may or may not know the difference between wheel alignment and wheel balancing, but you do know a great Outsurance deal when you see one. Get a car insurance quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Call SAFM now on 086 000 2032.
Well, in a moment, we'll get into our first word interview focusing on the developing story out of Cape Town following a series of shootings in Mitchell's Plain that have left at least 4 people dead and several others injured. We'll unpack that shortly. Before we do, the question that I asked this morning, what does the US-Iran ceasefire signal to you? What is it telling you about this moment? And I think when we look at the idea of winners and losers, Advocate Makhubela said this ceasefire for the next 2 weeks is effectively a win-win for the US and Iran. Is that how you read it too? Or is that a diplomatic way of couching the fact that there has been some concessions that have been made from either party? One might feel the US is the one that has managed to get Iran to agree to its deadline and time frame that was set for Tuesday midnight. Somebody else might feel, well, Iran has effectively got the upper hand because the US has given in to its list of demands. So I'd love to hear from you on this issue. The number to dial this morning, 086 000 2032, and on the WhatsApp line, 0614 104 107. Let me go to Durban. Musa, good morning to you.
Good day to you, ma'am. How are you?
Well, go for it, Musa.
Yes, basically, I just think that what has happened has been a big plus for Israel, in that, you can't have a country whose plan and mission is to destroy yours. So whatever has happened, the destruction of those arms in Iran has, in a way, given Israel a bit of a cushion for the time being against this immediate threat of Iran and its proxies. So, secondly, looking at as well that Iran is the one that is arming everyone against Israel. I just Googled today, Iran is 181 times bigger than Israel. So I just think that what has happened has been a good indication that Israel can still survive. That's my one point I wanted to raise this morning.
All right.
And secondly, before I go on this issue of oil and fuel, I just think that South Africa has let us down in that we have had a technology that can make oil out of coal. And South Africa seems to have abandoned that project. And I think
why would you say we've abandoned it? I mean, Sasol is still up and running, right?
Yes, I'm saying we have abandoned this project since we are a major coal miner in the world. Yet we go out and we become dependent on the crude oil. Yet in South Africa, there is coal that can be made into this fuel. I don't know how much capacity there is to fund everybody, but it could shelter us in these times of times like this. That's my take.
All right, Musa, thanks for that view. Look, I think it also comes down to the kind of demand that we create locally, right? So supporting a retailer or an oil company like Cecil would automatically drive the demand, right, for that kind of product. I hope you didn't miss the interview yesterday, Musa, that we had with a particular focus on the petroleum sector and how we're likely to be affected by this ongoing conflict.
Good morning, Sis Katie and the team. Good show as always. What's on my mind today is the pause that Donald Trump has announced on the striking Iran. I think both countries want to de-escalate, but on their own terms. That's the only problem. That's my take here. PK, thank you.
Morning, Cathy. Morning, from listeners. Welcome, Cathy. Cathy, the U.S. and this guy that's leading it and his lackey in Israel are just buying time. They've been losing a lot, and billions are lost by America when their planes were shot down, and there's been too many casualties in their side. So we've seen this being implemented in the Palestine when they were ceasefire, then they'd be hit a bit harder. And that's the same thing that the approach that this guy is doing now. So it's just a way to buy time, but he's going to come back. Z from Bloemfontein.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Two lots of protesting on the N2, South Coast area of KZN, one by the Hibberdine exit, another one further up. So there are all sorts of delays and diversions. Motorists are sitting on the N2 and on the R102 as well. If you need to get through there for work purposes, make sure you give yourself plenty of extra time. There are a lot of public order policing and other role players on scene to help you out, but it is inevitable that you will face some delays around that Hibberdine area, South Coast of KZN this morning. Just staying in Durban, we're back to school, so we're back to volumes. I'm on some 30 up to Prospect and looking slow the N2 from the M7 up to Westwood Mall, heavy, and of course Komarshu Highway queued up out of Komarshu down through Malindella and Duffs Road on towards the N2. Looking okay around Cliffdale and Keeridge, not looking so great around Ashburton on your way to Durban. There is some build up there this morning. Joburg's N3 North at Spruitview, still very heavy backlogs from Barry Marais up through Leondale Road towards Heidelberg Road. Heavy backlogs on that N3 running north. Stationary truck coming out of Pretoria's Montana area on the N1 south before Stormful Road. That's a big delay from Pumalani Plaza and also backlogging Sefaka Makato out of Montana towards that N1 on-ramp. It's all very heavy there. Cape Town crash on the R300 north at Van Riebeeck Road. That's a queue coming up from the Delft area. And there's no traffic lights along that very busy Baden-Powell Drive at Strandfontein Pavilion. So from Mitchell's Plain, Khayelitsha, you will queue this morning on Baden-Powell through Strandfontein direction Muizenberg. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The National Briefing on SAFM. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
You're still listening to the National Briefing. Coming up on the other side of 7 o'clock in the next hour, we are going to be focusing on the coalition governments that we see in Gauteng in particular. And one of the questions we're going to be asking is, what do you think is driving allegiances and configurations between political parties in Gauteng? What do you think is driving allegiances and configurations between political parties in Gauteng? But we'll unpack that angle as we get into the second hour of the show. For now, let's turn our attention to this developing story out of Cape Town, where a series of shootings in Mitchell's Plain has left at least 4 people dead and several others injured in a single day. The latest incident unfolded in the afternoon in the Cape Town area, where gunfire erupted, leaving 7 people wounded. Some of them remain in a critical condition this morning. 3 were declared dead at the scene. Earlier in the day, police had responded to a separate shooting where an adult male was also killed within the same vicinity. Now, while authorities are trying to piece together what led to these attacks and whether they are linked at all, it has raised questions about the effectiveness of the military intervention in communities like Mitchell's Plain. Let me welcome onto the show Norman Janchis, who's spokesperson and deputy chairperson of the Mitchell's Plain United Residents Association. Norman, good morning to you. How is the community reacting following these latest shootings?
Good morning to you. Yeah, the community is quite traumatized and shocked at this incident because it happened in and around the town center. And this is the economic hub and also the transportation hub in Mitchell's Plain. So a lot of people started to avoid the town center, and we don't know what to expect today because it's clear for us that this is a gang-related incident. It happened, the first murder happened early morning, and our information is that it was the afternoon shooting was the revenge shootings based on the morning shooting. So it is clearly gang-related, and to a certain extent it's also connected to the control of the town center, which is the economic hub of Mitchell's Plain, where there's a lot of drug peddling happening, where there's extortion happening. So Mitchell's Plain is clearly traumatized, and I think just over a week ago the army was deployed. And for now, the feeling is that the army's deployment is not working. It's not bringing across the difference, because within the last 5 days, we've had 7 murders in Mitchell's Plain.
Norman, how visible has the army been? Because we know that on the day of their deployment, there was a sense of boots on the ground, but what has happened since?
Well, number one, Mitchell's Plain is quite big. I mean, we've got more than 1 million people in Mitchell's Plain. So there's no way that the army and law enforcement can be all over the place at the same time. And what also happened in Mitchell's Plain over the past few years, we just used to have 1 or 2 hotspots in Mitchell's Plain. But at the moment, over the past few years, it has grown that you find even in the traditionally quiet areas, crime-free areas, those gangsters has infiltrated those areas because there's a market for their drugs. And they've also taken over some of the houses that belongs to community members. So abandoned houses, they will gradually just take over the house and even get the legal owners out of the house eventually.
The Cape Argus this morning on its front page is running with a story, and the headline there says, "Gangs are too clever for SANDF and SAPS." Do you get a sense of that, Norman, that despite the interventions, the way in which gangs have become so organized, it just makes it very difficult, if not impossible, for the authorities to keep up?
Well, it's not supposed to be that way. So why do we have the gangs being cleverer than police? We've got paid people that's supposed to look after the community. And the case in point is yesterday morning, when we discovered the murder yesterday morning. Normally, when it comes to gang shootings and stuff, there's normally a revenge killing. You take one of us out, we're gonna take 3 or 4 of you out. So I expected some response the morning. You had to be proactive. You had to expect some retaliation, and the police was nowhere to be found. So maybe they were busy with the investigation. But like I said to you, within the past few days, I think just the day before Easter till yesterday, we had 7 murders, if not more, murders in Mitchells Plain. So you need to be more intelligence driven. And one of the things that is shown up now is that the lack of community participation in this deployment. You cannot operate on an island and think you're going to know everything. You're going to need community intelligence. You're going to need community input. And the town center, again, like I said, there's been a lot of things happening over the years. Many people don't even go to the town center anymore.
Okay.
Most of the mainstream shops has closed there over the years.
Norman
So,
Janjis, we're going to have to leave it there. Sorry to interject. Norman Janjis is the spokesperson and deputy chairperson of the Mitchells Plain United Residents Association. We'll have more coming up after the latest 7 o'clock news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, Tshwane Metro Police Chief back at the Mohlahlana Commission and Pakistan's Prime Minister confirms US ceasefire. Good morning. Tshwane Metro Police Chief Yolanda Faroe is expected to continue testifying at the Mohlahlana Commission this morning. Yesterday, Commissioner Faroe testified about allegations of corruption in the city of Tshwane relating to tender procurement processes in the Metro Police Department. Evidence before the Mohlahlana Commission revealed top Tshwane officials were involved in alleged tender manipulation in a multi-million rand security tender. Faroe told the Commission about a smear campaign that was directed at her after she halted irregular ad hoc security services.
Needless to say, Commissioners, if I might just continue, after I stopped at ad hoc services, and only now in hindsight I can see, a smear campaign started against me. Number one, my qualifications, it was said that I misrepresented my qualifications. Number two, it was said that I received a 450,000 voucher. I don't know from who.
A man has died and 2 others were seriously injured in what's believed to be a case of mob justice in Mbiki in the Eastern Cape. The men were beaten, then set alight and left next to a road. Police spokesperson Welile Matyolo says when the police arrived on the scene, 1 victim was declared dead. The other 2 injured men were taken to hospital. They were accused of stealing electricity cables. Police are appealing to the public to come forward with information to assist with the arrest and prosecution of the perpetrators. The DA has laid criminal charges against the Nelson Mandela Bay executive mayor, accusing her of misleading Parliament over failure to account for key municipal matters. Marina van Zyl, the DA spokesperson on cooperative governance and traditional affairs, says this is a serious offence under the Powers and Privileges Act and is pushing for accountability.
Lying to Parliament is a criminal offence. She repeatedly failed to appear before the committee to account for 22 contracts under investigation and 1.2 billion rand in unspent funds, while residents sit without electricity and water. When she finally appeared, she blamed her own staff, but her chief of staff contradicted her. This is about accountability. Residents deserve better than a failing ANC-EFF-PA coalition. The DA is bringing accountability and a plan to fix the metro.
The Cape Winelands District Municipality says they are continuing to fight a fire on private land on the mountain slopes of the Du Toit's Kloof Pass. The fire started yesterday afternoon. Fire Services spokesperson Joanne Otto says strong winds are making accessibility for firefighters difficult.
There is a very strong wind from the Paarl side, which is keeping the fire line in the rocky peaks, making access for ground teams very difficult. Fresh ground teams from Cape Winelands District Municipality and Cape Nature will be deployed this morning to continue with active firefighting as the fire line becomes accessible. All roads in the area are open to traffic.
And finally, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has confirmed a 2-week ceasefire has been agreed on between the United States and Iran, hours before the US President Donald Trump threatened a major escalation against Iran's civilian infrastructure. The truce was confirmed by both Trump and Iran's Supreme National Council. Trump posted on Truth Social that after conversations with Pakistan's Prime Minister, he agreed to suspend bombing for 2 weeks, subject to Iran agreeing to completely open the Strait of Hormuz. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said in a statement that if attacks were halted against Iran, then its armed forces would cease their defensive operations. He also indicated that for a 2-week period, safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz would be possible via coordination with Iran's armed forces and with due consideration of technical limitations. Pakistan's PM Sharif announced all parties had agreed to a truce, including in Lebanon, effective immediately, and said he would warmly welcome delegations from the warring parties to peace talks in Islamabad on Friday to settle all disputes. Israel has also reportedly agreed to the terms.
Recapping the top story, Tshwane Metro Police Chief Yolanda Faro is expected to continue testifying at the Matlanga Commission this morning. Yesterday, she testified about allegations of corruption in the city of Tshwane related to tender procurement processes in the Metro Police Department. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Out to 30754.
You may or may not know the difference between a timing belt and a timing chain, but you do know a great Outsurance deal when you see one. Get a car insurance quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand. Or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash, SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer Golden Arrows coach Manqoba Nciti weighs in on the Betway Premiership title race as Pirates pile the pressure on Sundowns. And in cricket, the South African cricketers are dominating the opening weeks of the IPL 2026. Let's find out more at around 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Let's kick it off northern parts of Pretoria with a breaking down truck on the N1 south before Stormville. Very heavy coming down from the sort of Pumalani Plaza territory off the N4 Bekwena Highway. As you get onto the M1, you're sitting traffic through Sefaka Makato and down towards that breakdown just before Stormville. It's also causing a bit of chaos on Sefaka Makato coming out of Montana, trying to get into that N1. A lot of motorists avoiding that and just pushing over and jamming at that whole sort of Sefaka Makato Moloto Road junction area as well. Joburg N3 from Phosphorus up through Spradeview towards Heidelberg Road. Very heavy backlogging going on there today. Durban, the N2, pretty solid. Coming up from the M7 through Westwood Mall as you pick up the roadworks. A bit more traffic volume around this morning. Commercial highways heavy from Mallandella down through Duffs Road on towards the N2. And some queuing pressure Toti through to Prospecton on Twenty Hill territory. Also the protesting on the south coast just north of Heberdean. Very heavy traffic disruption on the N2 and off the N2 as you're diverted around some burning tyres across the highway there. Plenty of police on the scene. Just follow their instructions between Port Shepstone and Durban. You will need some extra time to get through all that. And Cape Town, a crash, R300 north at Van Riebeeck Road. The Chaos River exit, that's pushed to queue right back as far as Delft. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The National Briefing on SAFM. Clarity, context, and conversation. This is where the day begins with Cathy Mohlahlana on the National Briefing.
You're listening to the National Briefing, 9 after 7 o'clock. A very good morning if you've just tuned into the show. My name is Cathy Mohlahlana and I'll be with you until 9 o'clock as we continue to lead conversations that move us. So coming up within this hour, we are going to be taking a look at our big story, which is a focus on the political allegiances and configurations within the city, or rather within the province of Gauteng. The major question I'm asking you is, what do you think is driving allegiances and configurations between political parties? All of this, of course, in the wake of the political storm over the appointment of the EFF's Nkululeko Dunga. The EFF leader now holds the purse strings of Gauteng, South Africa's economic engine, after being named MEC of Finance by the Premier Panyaza Lesufi. Lesufi stated that the changes were made to prevent the government from losing power during potential motions of no confidence, and also to pass the budget. The move has been rejected by some ANC structures and is also set to become a point of discussion at the party's next National Working Committee meeting. It has exposed deep cracks within the ANC in Gauteng as it tries to hold together a coalition government. So expected for this conversation is the new finance MEC Nkululeko Dunga. We'll put him on the line as soon as we've been able to reach him. In the meantime, though, let me also bring in one of the voices in response to this appointment. Joining us is Nkosi Tethile Bonga, who is the SACP Gauteng spokesperson. Mr. Bonga, good morning to you. Thanks for your time.
Good morning to you and the listeners out there. Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate the opportunity.
One of the things that we've seen is that this appointment of Nkululeko Dunga as the finance MEC has been met with mixed reactions. The likes of the Veterans League, the Youth League of the ANC, and the South African National Civic Organization have vociferously opposed this particular appointment. What is your reaction to it, and what do you make of the rejections that have been stated against this appointment?
Well, I think it is important, first and foremost, to express our position as SACP in the province. And they are based on the fact that we welcome the recent development around the reshuffling of the cabinet. And I think it is important to further congratulate the progress that has been attained by the ANC-led government so far, especially the swift response to the water challenge. Those are noteworthy things to be pointed out. It should not be merely premise on who is appointed where. However, what is our exact reaction towards the appointment and in relation to the dissatisfaction or the dissenting views or voices? We are fully aware that the Premier is navigating a very complex political terrain, which from time to time will compel him and the collective, of course, guided by the ANC, to make difficult decisions. And all of this happens under the conditions that we find ourselves in. And realizing that we did not win elections decisively above the 50% margin. And hence we find ourselves in the position that we're in. The ANC Youth League is well within its own right to express its views as a voice of young people. If we lose that voice within the movement, then we should not, we don't have a future. We don't have a future. So the voice of the ANC Youth League is important, and we think they should be listened to. However, we do not reject the choices that have been made by the Premier, because we do realize that it is not solely the individual view or personal opinion of the Premier, as he indicated in the press briefing. These are changes that come about as a result of extensive internal and external consultation, and over and above, guided by the National Executive Committee of the ANC, which then gave the Premier and the ANC collective in the province to go ahead and engage different political parties. What interests us the most is the stability of governance and service delivery to the people of Gauteng. That is what we are worried about. In fact, we're not worried about. We're happy about the progress that has been attained thus far.
It's interesting that you talk about the need for stability and how that should be top of mind. Of course, many have raised the concern around Nkululeko Dunga and the conditions and circumstances under which he left the Ekurhuleni Metro. Yes, there was infighting between the ANC and the EFF. Another contributing factor, though, was around his performance as MMC of Finance and the allegations there around having potentially contravened the Municipal Finances Management Act. Are we being honest when we say that what is driving the decisions around who gets what position is in fact the interests of the people of Gauteng, or is it about power plays and positionings ahead of what is going to be a very important local election cycle?
Moving from a premise which is in twofold, both politically and legally, I think we should have the understanding that legally it is the Premier's decision to appoint a cabinet. Politically, the appointments would be shaped by various political developments and dynamics here and there. And the Premier was very clear in the press briefing that he was fortunate enough to preside over a number of meetings in Ekurhuleni that deliberated and resulted into Dunga being excluded eventually from governance in Ekurhuleni. However, he did state that that did not come about as a result of capacity and incompetence of the person concerned. It had more to do with politics, and politics guide our work. Politics guide our conduct in government.
All right.
They determine whether services will be delivered correctly to the people. Politics are there to be managed. It is not an issue of power play and shifting pawns here and there as it has been projected out there. It is political management in the interest of the people of Gauteng.
All right. Nkosithethile Bonga, the SACP Gauteng spokesperson, thanks for your time. Well, let's move from that straight into this conversation with the new Finance MEC Nkululeko Dunga. Mr. Dunga, thank you for your time this morning. So you come into this position this week well aware of the voices of opposition that have risen against your appointment. Do you go into office worried about how long you're going to be in this position for?
Oh, greetings, Beckett, and greetings to the listeners of the show. Look, what we'd generally like to appreciate is that there are conversations, and there are conversations that are public, and it's after all, it is a position of society and the citizens of Gauteng. So there would always be expectations that they must air their views, regardless of any political affiliation or alignment. So would be extremely worried if conversations never revolved around occupancy of offices and ultimately the lack of interest towards who leads in terms of policy postures in Gauteng. However, we are not worried in any level in terms of how long we can form part of governance on the basis that we have a thorough understanding as the economic freedom fighters that we are not a majority in the legislature. And at any given point in time, dynamics of legislatures across, and it's not something that is just limited to the province, and municipalities can change. However, we're given a responsibility. We have been appointed through through a level of consultation with the political parties as well as the Premier. And our main focus at this point is to do what is expected of us in terms of the appointment, which is the creation of stability and the
Sure.
continued
And
stability in the department and so forth. Yeah.
have you gone to the office yet?
In actual fact, we've just been allocated an office after some work had to be done in terms of compliance. So we are working remotely at a different office, but I'll definitely be at the office allocated on Friday morning, 8 o'clock.
Do you have any concerns about what the outcome of the upcoming NWC meeting, the National Working Committee meeting of the ANC might be, given the fact that this is one of the issues that is set to be an issue of discussion? You would have seen what the Veterans League has said. You would have seen what the Youth League has said. And many of the leaders now of the ANC are deferring to that meeting as sort of being the final discussion point of whatever direction this conversation may take.
Not at all. Look, the conversations of the ANC and its alliance structures are conversations that are theirs, and they should be limited to views of the constituencies that they serve. So would definitely not be worried at all. But you would recall that structures of the ANC and individuals in the ANC have equally as well, even in the public domain, expressed their dissatisfaction, not only with this appointment, but in general, in terms of a relationship or a political working relationship with the EFF. Some has expressed against the DA. And then they take those conversations within their own political structures and then they resolve upon them, you know. But when you look at generally the substance of or the contention of discussion and debate, you get to see that it's very limited to politics and more about, without a lack of a better word, you know, the attempt to exercise continued patronage amongst themselves as comrades. And that gives us a problem because, and that should give everyone else a problem because it means that there's a level of a lack of consciousness in understanding that the ANC does not have majority of power and therefore requires as much as they can to align other political parties, at least those who are more politically conscious with them, to establish government. But that's a conversation for the ANC to have, and it's got nothing to do with us.
The irony of it, of course, is that there are some who are seeing your appointment in particular to the position of Finance MEC as being an extension of a patronage network and as being a way of guaranteeing support for the ANC from the EFF, within the province at least.
No, so the incorporation of the EFF into the legislature, you know, when you've got an understanding of the legislature, is that the ANC commands way below the 40%, and therefore they need 50% plus one to be able to stabilize legislature in terms of decision making. You know, the case and example was just a recently adopted budget where they needed 50% plus one of legislature to pass through. Now, in that attempt, there would have been an incorporation of the EFF, there would have been and obviously the PA and RISE are part of it, which gives the current governance of the day 43 seats outside of the 80. That cannot be patronage. That is understanding and being politically conscious. That in order for you to take effective decision in legislature, you need a majority of it. And you don't have that majority. So what do? You go out and you go and harvest those that can support you in your attempt of continued stability and functioning of government. it would have been extremely irresponsible of the ANC to continue with a minority government in the understanding that majority of legislature um, does not support them. And in cases where a budget is not passed through, they are not able to render services. Then we're back to the conversation in terms of then why do they why are they there? There's instability. Why could they not get the necessary support? The question and the narrative will drive away from what is perceived as patronage.
Okay.
But we have no relationship with the ANC in terms of the establishment of coalitions and so forth. We've got a working relationship in terms of the establishment of government, and now the EFF is a part of it. Will exercise that responsibility within the confines of the collective.
How far are you expecting rather this current agreement to extend? Are we going to see it run across different metros in the province?
Yeah, look, we've already established a working relationship with the ANC in Mohale City. The EFF is part of government in the city of Johannesburg. Effective government, so that is. In the city of Tshwane as well, with the incorporation of the Action SA as well. And even in the city of Ekurhuleni, we had a co-governance model that was unfortunately destabilized by the mayor. So we're expecting, and what we need to appreciate as well is that the EFF at no point has portrayed a view of arrogancy towards this process, because all of these political parties have always been supported by the EFF in an attempt to establish government and to ensure that there's an effective government that is able to render services, whether the EFF is a part of it or is not, whether they're in strategic positions or not.
Okay.
The Democratic Alliance were in power as a result of the EFF support. The ANC is in power in many of these municipalities. As a result of the EFF support, including as well Action SA, so we have a thorough understanding that when it comes to coalition and the engagement of many other political parties, is you put arrogance aside and you put the interest of the people, and it's not about you as a political party. So we are expecting this to continue.
We're going to have to leave it there.
And see it through.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for your time. The newly appointed MEC for Finance in Gauteng and chairperson of the EFF in the province.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an ABSA Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. ABSA Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the ABSA Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. ABSA is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Neighbor to neighbor, show me this one is for you. It's ngukutshele. If you didn't replace your SASSA Gold card before, your turn is coming. From around April, you can replace it with the Postbank Black Card. It's simple. Bring your ID and visit a Postbank replacement site near you. For general questions, call Postbank Customer Care on 0800 53 54 55. To find active replacement site, *120 *355#. Postbank will never ask for your PIN. Terms and conditions apply.
This is Cathy Mohlahlana on the National Briefing.
Well, let's stay then with our big story of the morning. We're asking the question, what do you think is driving the political allegiances and configurations between political parties in Gauteng? Sanusha Naidu is a political analyst and she's a research associate as well with the Institute for Global Dialogue. Sanusha, what is behind all of these moves?
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to your listeners. I mean, it's quite interesting to see that as we move into local government elections, these configurations start to emerge. It's not something that is old or new, rather. It's something that seems to underline or rather underscore the way political maneuverings happen within particular dynamics. And so, listening to the interview and listening to the responses around why this is now happening, I think it comes back to the question of, if you are to stabilize metros, we are moving, or we have seen from the 2024 election that coalitions become quite a driving force within particular kinds of context. And given where the ANC and the GNU is, and the fact that at the provincial level, GPUs were then put together. And if we see in the Gauteng region that Lusufi didn't really align to the kind of GNU context at the national level. I think bringing in the MMC from the EFF also tends to indicate that there are different types of configurations that are probably going into play now in order to look at how the post 2026 local government elections may play out. But also, I think, in lieu of the fact that we're not in a kind of very stable level of coalitions. And so that in itself creates another kind of dynamic, or rather dilemma, in terms of what these coalitions mean in terms of bringing in political parties, in terms of reshuffling at the provincial level, but the impact that that will have post the elections. Because at the end of the day, the question of stabilization is not about votes. It's about whether you're delivering on the budget, and the budget is actually delivering on service delivery.
Sanusha Naidu, let me thank you for your time and your take this morning. It's just after 7:30, and Musa has your latest headlines.
Thanks, Cathy. Good morning. In the headlines, oil prices have fallen sharply while Asian stocks surged, and the dollar was knocked back as a 2-week Middle East ceasefire sparked a relief rally, fueled by hopes that oil and gas flows through the Strait of Hormuz could resume. Tshwane Metro Police Chief Yolanda Faru is expected to continue testifying at the Madlanga Commission this morning. Yesterday, she testified about allegations of corruption in the city of Tshwane relating to tender procurement processes in the Metro Police Department. And around 700 teachers are expected to march to the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Education offices in Pietermaritzburg this morning, demanding employment. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Reminder of the major disruption between Durban and Port Shepstone around the Hibberdene area. Two separate areas just north of Hibberdene with burning tyres and protest action this morning. There is a major backlog of traffic on the N2, both Durban bound and southbound, with some diversions off the highway and reroutes onto the R102. So make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. Otherwise, travel later. Also, a stationary truck in KZN coming out of Pietermaritzburg on your way to Durban. It's stuck at Ashburton. There's a really big backlog that is building up into that one. Joburg this morning. N1 north from Bayers Nordia round to Rivonia Road, quite heavy. The N3 north into Heldenace, packed again into the lane restriction section. That queue, not as bad as it can be, but backlogging from Elan's interchange. And a stationary truck on the M1 south coming through from Montana before Stormfall Road. Looks like it may have been clear, but there is the backlog still coming out of Sefaka Makato from the Montana area. Cape Town crash, Malabongwe Drive on-ramp to the N7 south. That's causing delays all over the N7 bridge there. And a crash on the R300 north before Van Riebeeck Road. Very heavy queues getting up towards the Cales River from the Delft side. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai Khan, it's game on in the Premiership title race. Golden Arrows, it's their coach also entering the fray.
Yeah, Cathy, I think everyone's enjoying this title race. Unless you're Sundowns or you're chasing Sundowns, then maybe it's just a little bit of stress for the fans. But yeah, so much of excitement. We even got the Golden Arrows coach, Mangoba Ngiti, saying even from the outside, the race is shaping up to be one of the most exciting in recent years. Despite Arrows' heavy defeat to Orlando Pirates, Ngiti admits he's enjoying the battle at the top.
I think on the fourth goal, I think the ball was outside when Mabaso was fouled on the touchline. I also think there was a strong penalty shout on Cisse. but we also fluffed our chances with Gaza and Sitole, which were few and far between. I think a team that deserved to win won the match.
And there we go. The score line there. Orlando Pirates 5, Golden Arrows 0. Now, Mamelodi Sundowns, they had a 1-0 win over Durban City, and that was thanks to an early strike from Katlejo and Sabeleng. Richards Bay coach now, Papi Zotwane, commenting that his side, well, they were disciplined when they edged Stellenbosch FC 2-1 at the Umhlatuze Sports Complex in their Betway Premiership clash last night.
Play at home because we are not only playing for our supporters wethu, and I think they did that exceptionally well. But in terms of the overall performance, I think our team did exceptionally well.
And staying with the Betway Premiership, Chippa United returned to winning ways. 1-0 was their victory over Siwelele, and all happened at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. The other match saw Magesi FC keeping their Premiership survival hopes alive. 3-0 victory over Maruma Galants at Seshejo Stadium. Let's go to UEFA Champions League, where Bayern Munich stunned Real Madrid 2-1 in their quarterfinal first leg, while Arsenal needed a last-minute goal from Kai Havertz to edge Sporting Lisbon 1-0. And finally, cricket, South African Stars lighting up the IPL with Heinrich Klaasen leading the charge as one of the tournament's top run scorers so far. Ryan Rickleton, Tristan Stubbs and Aidan Markram have all made key contributions with the bat, while Lungi Ngidi and Nandre Berger delivering with the ball. So plenty of action from the IPL. Will bring you the latest results and more at the top of the hour. For SAFM Sport, I'm Zai Khan.
The Market Brief with Ndauleng Lechela on SAFM.
Ndauleng, South African businesses are continuing to feel the strain. Supply chain, of course, have been affected across the world, and we have multinationals in this country that rely on the delivery of goods through those supply chains.
Yes, Cathy, data really showing that local companies are feeling the effects of the war in the Gulf region, with supply chain disruptions and client caution already slowing activity. Now, sea freight delays linked to the Strait of Hormuz have contributed to longer delivery times, while export orders fell at the sharpest pace in over 2 years. Now, despite these external pressures, domestic activity showed some improvement last month, with the S&P Global Purchasing Managers Index rising to 50.8 points from 50 in February. Now, this is the first increase in 6 months. We saw firms hiring more staff, building up inventories, and starting new projects, which lifted output at the fastest rate in half a year. Commenting on the print, senior economist at S&P Global Market Intelligence, David Owen, warns that while local businesses, activity that is faring well, ongoing global supply bottlenecks and heightened uncertainty could make the months ahead challenging for local firms.
Taking a look at some of our businesses internationally, in fact, this is also on the front page of the Business Day this morning. Some sad news for First Rand. They're now planning to exit the UK market.
So the lender has pledged to work with regulators and Aldermore's board for a smooth transition to exit the British market. The move follows the UK Financial Conduct Authority's requirement for lenders to compensate customers for historical car loan commission arrangements, which it's deemed unfair. Now, First Rand, which had already set aside provisions for potential payouts, will now increase this by almost 12 billion rands, taking the total it has to pay out to 17.7 billion rands. Now, this exceeds the 6 billion rand it's earned from that business over more than a decade. First Rand warns this could cut its profit by up to 15%. Now, market reaction has been muted, but the exit highlights the risks of overseas operations amid rising regulatory costs, a trend mirrored by other South African firms. Over the past year, we've seen Johan Rupert's investment company, Rainet, exit the UK market, as well as financial services group Signia also dropping that market. Yet some companies like Investec and Bidcorp continue to succeed abroad, just showing that careful management can still deliver growth despite regulatory challenges. Now, turning our focus to markets, with just over an hour before the JSE opens, expectations are for a rebound as investors cheer the temporary US-Iran ceasefire. This already being seen in currency markets, with the rand trading stronger at 16.43 to the dollar, just above 22 to the British pound, and 16.20 to the euro. All in the meantime, easing, trading below $100 a barrel as Iran said it would open the Strait of Hormuz amid negotiations with the US, and that easing supply concerns what appears to be a de-escalation in tensions really fueling stocks this morning, with Asian markets flying high. Japan's Nikkei up 5.3% this hour, and US futures trading in the green.
Ndaoleng Lichela, thanks for that update. More from Ndaoleng coming up tomorrow on the National Briefing.
Don't blow your paycheck on high car insurance premiums when you could be saving with Outsurance. So how much does 35-year-old Zanai save?
A whopping 1,180 Rand.
That's an incredible 1,180 Rand monthly saving on Zanai's 2017 Mercedes-Benz GLA. Get a quote now and see how much Outsurance could save you. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
With Outsurance, I'm saving a whole 729 Rand.
729 Rand is a sweet saving on 32-year-old Parushka's 2020 Haval H2. And after 3 claim-free years, you get an out bonus.
Yes, I'm ready for that out bonus.
You also get benefits like 24/7 roadside assistance and loads more. Get a quote now and see how much money Outsurance could save you. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online. Limits apply.
If you drive an older car, this will make your day. For his 2011 Toyota Corolla, 51-year-old Musa chose Outsurance Essential Car Insurance because he gets a third-party cover of up to 1 million Rand. For this and many more benefits, Musa pays only 451 Rand a month. Get Outsurance Essential Car Insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS car to 43185. That's car to 43185. Outsurance, a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Call SAFM now on 086 000 2032.
You're listening to the National Briefing. I'm taking your calls on 086 000 2032. Thanks for the WhatsApp voice notes and text messages that you've been sending through, reacting to the different stories that we've been running this morning. Of course, you can also get in touch with us on 0614 104 107. That's the line to use for your WhatsApp voice notes and text messages. 0614 104 107. Let me go to Khotso in Maludapofung. Khotso, you want to respond to the interview we had with the MEC of Finance in Gauteng, Kululeko Dunga.
Goeiemôre, Cathy Mohlahlana. Who handed out Cathy?
Khotso, go into it.
Out Cathy, I think we have to understand and get a clarity why Panyazali Sufi appoint the MEC of the opposition party to be the MEC of Finance here in Gauteng. Remember, Cathy, we have a difference between the ANC and the Alexander Mafia. Alexander Mafia is a project that is run by the individuals. ANC is a political party that is guided by their policies. Panyaza Lesufi, he don't have a right to jump. But it's not a surprising thing, Mamsaki, because Cathy, there are the two ships here in Joburg. The third ship is sinking, and the crew of those ships are jumping to another ship that is moving. So Panyaza Lesufi is destroying the ANC. I expect the end of this week, the ANC must recall Panyaza Lesufi, because that appointment, we can call it, is a bet from West.
All right.
That's the only way that we can say Mamsaki, Cathy.
Khotso, let's leave it there. Khotso in Maluti Apofung, as you heard there, he certainly is not convinced by the reasons given for the appointment of Nguleko Dunga to that position of the MEC. We will be taking more of your reaction a little later on in this hour. For now, I want us to turn our attention to our very new segment, right, that we've introduced as part of the national briefing in the mornings. Let's take the sting first, and then we'll get into it.
The National Briefing on SAFM, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
All right, so it's supposed to say the reality check, but we'll get there. And this week we have Professor Bani Pichana, who is leading this segment for us. What is the reality check? Well, it's a segment that exists to help us pause, reflect, and to think seriously about the state of South Africa. Not only what is happening in the country, but what it is costing us and what must be done to change it. So this segment will hopefully provoke our thinking and enrich our discourse. And we'll have one guest take us through their own thinking around the state of South Africa. And that's exactly what Professor Bani Pichana has agreed to do for us this week as we launch the reality check. So day 2 of the reality check, Prof, and you want us to focus on 3 key questions today. I'm going to start with the first one. Do democratic states fail?
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning to our listeners. And thank you very much for the opportunity to reflect in a manner that is as deep as we can make it. Yes, democratic states fail. They fail because democracy doesn't work for the people who elect the government of the day. The system works only to the extent that democracy asserts control of the state. When the control of the state is outside of the systems of democracy themselves and therefore is not accountable, then we get what is called a failed state. Because at that point, the state has lost its ability to provide the basic services, maintain law and order, control of its territory, and this inability to meet the basic needs of the people who elected them to power. And therefore, they have lost the capacity to exercise power in a manner that is consistent with the constitution of the country and that expresses the will of the people. That is a strange thing to say, because the will of the people is, in fact, expressed in a democratic manner. So in our case, I often say we have what I call an inchoate democracy. We've got democracy in the extent that we go and have elections very frequently, actually. Every 2 or 3 years we have elections. And there's never been any serious attack on the legitimacy of our election and elective processes. Never. However, we know that the people who are elected not by us but by the political parties are the ones that put themselves up, and they put up certain people who we, the people, don't have any control over. Sometimes we don't even know them. And that is what makes it an inchoate democracy, an incomplete democracy that we have. And in fact, there are voices today to say that there must be amendments to our electoral act. We need to go back to the normal ways in which constituencies actually elect their own people, and they can actually have a degree of control over that. The reality is that is South Africa a failed state? There's a big discussion about that. South Africa, in fact, has got so many of the characteristics of a failed state.
Sure, Prof. That's a very, very strong reflection there, and certainly I know we'll get many of our listeners thinking and expressing their own views. So if we are then to try and understand this incomplete democracy that you say we are living in, what understanding do we need to have of our electoral politics in order to make sense of it?
What we have right now, for all intents and purposes, is the electoral politics that no longer serve the function for which it is intended. Well, take the example of Gauteng. Premier of Gauteng claims that he has a minority government, but actually he has put up a government that he can't even control. It's controlled by other parties. There are individuals he puts as a definition. There's a discussion you put up this morning about one of the parties that are in a putative sense a part of the government, but actually we don't know who they serve. who they serve. They serve the people who elected them, or they serve the people of Gauteng. Nobody knows. Right now, as we speak, we are having the concerns about the infiltration and the control of our security services and the police services. So there's a whole commission that has been meeting for a while now. We have a parliamentary ad hoc committee that has been meeting. And the South Africans are transfixed with the observation that actually the security of the people of this country cannot be guaranteed. And the reason it's not guaranteed is that the criminals actually control those who are supposed to protect the people. And so people have lost faith and faith in it. Not so long ago, we had a state capture commission, the Zondo Commission. Again, we were transfixed in the extent to which the state was under the control of non-state actors. We find it all the time, the transport system, the taxis, the state is not able to assert its control and power over the taxi bosses. The Nigerians actually control parts of our country. Nobody elected them, but they control parts of our country. They control parts of our cities. You can go to Sunnyside in Pretoria, is controlled by Nigerians. You go to Coston in Port Elizabeth, it's controlled by Nigerians. You go to the Cape Town, everywhere. Nigerians control parts of the territory of this country, and nothing is disturbing them from doing it. What happens there? What happens is drugs, prostitution, and all of those things that happen right under the noses of our security forces that are in the country.
Prof, how did we get here? Very briefly, how did we get here? We'll use the last 2 days of the week that we have to talk about the solutions. How did we get here?
How did we get here? We got here for various reasons. The first one is that we failed, I count myself among them, to really capitalize on the positive things that we receive in a state that was apartheid that we removed. By this I mean, for example, now the president has just signed a new Public Service Commission Act. One of the things that happened in the early days is that there was a so-called cadre deployment. It's probably still there even now, which was rather reminiscent, if you like, of the Broederbond of the Afrikaner state. But actually, it was not about competence and commitment and loyalty and all of that. It was about competence, not to government, but competence to a party system that was not necessarily part of government. We held that position, maybe for justifiable reasons, but we held it for a very long time. Even as the state functions were collapsing. The second reason we got to this is that I count myself among them because I was part of the sort of people in government in different spaces. We actually lost the morality that actually was driving much of the liberation struggle that we were part of. We lost the morality and the ethical compassion and justice and fairness and that desire to make things work not for ourselves but for other people. So that's how corruption actually happened, to control the state.
Professor Bani.
Thirdly, just last.
Prof, I'm going to have to pause you there. We're out of time. We're going to have to pick it up tomorrow on the reality check. Yeah, quite a lot that the Prof has put down on on the table this morning. I wonder what your take is. Which aspects do you agree with? Which aspects do you disagree with?
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, our top story. The protesting at Hibberdeen. The N2 has been reopened and clear. There is some protest action and delays on the R102 at that N2 highway bridge at the Hibberdeen exit. So still a bit of disruption there, but the N2 is clear. If you're going into Durban this morning, crash on the M4 near Victoria Embankment, Southern Freeway, heavily backed up. And coming out of Pietermaritzburg, a breakdown at Ashburton with a heavy queue back as far as Market Road. Now, leaving Pretoria's Montana area this morning, a stationary truck around Storenful is being cleared, but there is a backlog on that N1 from Sefaka-Makato down towards the N4 Emila-Glenny split. Some delays on the M1 north up to Allendale. It's getting a bit heavy through the Buccleuch interchange, and the N3 north at Spruitview, that is eased up quite nicely. Cape Town Marine Drive, okay out of Tableview, but you'll get to Milnerton, sit right through all the way to Pardon Island. The M1 inbound from Plattercliff Hill, solid to Sable Road, and the N2 inbound is under a bit of pressure from the airport through to Mowbray Main. Also that crash on the R300 that happened earlier before Van Riebeeck Road, still pushing a traffic queue back into Delft. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Moro, Moni, Dumela, Bonjour, Habari. You arrived in South Africa to build something better. New place, new challenges, new responsibilities. Now you can with the Mama Money bank account. Pay your rent, take care of your daily needs, build your life, and when your family needs you, you don't wait. You send money home, quickly, securely, from wherever you are. Because this is more than money, it's progress. Buy your Mama Money card today at Pick n Pay or a Mama Money agent. Mama Money, now you can.
This is Cathy Mohlahlana on the National Briefing.
Well, let's round up the hour going to KZN, where mop-up operations are continuing after severe storms have battered several parts of the coast. Senzelwe Mzila is spokesperson for the KZN Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department. Mzila, good morning. Just how severe has the damage been?
Good morning to you, Cathy, and good morning to the listeners. The province of KZN over the weekend experienced severe storm activity over the past few days, and this storm activity affected the Umgondovo district, Herikwala, and parts of the eThekwini metro. Parts of these areas, we've got mop-up operations that are ongoing right now. These teams are continuing to clear debris. They are restoring access to basic services. These storms uprooted trees. There was hail as well. A number of households have been damaged within these areas. And our disaster management teams that have been dispatched by KZN Cocta MEC, Reverend Zibutolezi, are working closely with the local teams within the municipalities to ensure that we support the families that have been affected, Kathy.
What is the department doing now to support communities affected?
Well, we've got a number of communities who had their basic services interrupted by the falling trees. We're working together with ESCOM and together with the municipal technical teams. This is specifically within the area of Underberg, within the Umkhonto district, and also parts of Umsunduzi and parts of eThekwini. We also had areas where we experienced localized flooding. In these areas, these teams were able to work swiftly to ensure that the water is drained where there was localized flooding. So these teams continue to work closely. But also, what is of concern to us, Cathy, is that the issue of weather-related incidents and climate change continues to affect our province. And as a provincial government, we continue to strengthen our disaster preparedness, our infrastructure resilience, and community awareness to better protect lives going forward.
Mr. Mzila, let me thank you for your time. Senzelwe Mzila, the spokesperson for KZN's COGTA department. It's 8 o'clock and Musa has your latest news.
Outsurance Essential is made for older cars. Claims are paid in cash within 5 working days and you choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
Thanks, Cathy. In our top stories, oil prices fall sharply after Middle East ceasefire announcement and Tshwane Metro Police Chief back at the Madlanga Commission. Good morning. Oil prices have fallen sharply while Asian stocks surged and the dollar was knocked back as a 2-week Middle East ceasefire sparked a relief rally fueled by hopes that oil and gas flows through the Strait of Hormuz could resume. The BBC's Nick Marsh has the details.
The ceasefire agreement has clearly brought relief to energy markets, allowing tankers that are already on the water to cross the Strait of Hormuz for the next 2 weeks will provide a much-needed boost in supply, especially to countries in Asia running low on oil and gas. But it's only temporary relief. To an extent, the economic damage has already been done. Analysts estimate it'll take months to restart oil production and logistics, which has collapsed in the Middle East due to the blockage in the Strait.
Gauteng Education MEC Lebogang Mahile is expected to visit the Rivoli Secondary School following a fire that destroyed parts of the school. A library, 2 storerooms and a science lab have been damaged by the blaze yesterday. Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson Xolile Kumalo says they managed to put down the blaze.
EMS firefighters responded to a fire incident call yesterday evening in Rivoli. The incident took place in Rivoli Secondary School on corner Juma and Japura streets. The fire incident destroyed 3 classrooms, a laboratory and a library. The cause of fire is undetermined.
Tshwane Metro Police Chief Yolanda Faru is expected to continue testifying at the Madlanga Commission this morning. Yesterday, she testified about allegations of corruption in the city of Tshwane relating to tender procurement processes in the Metro Police Department. Evidence before the Madlanga Commission has revealed that top Tshwane officials were involved in alleged tender manipulation in a multi-million rand security tender. Faru told the Commission about a smear campaign that was directed at her after she halted irregular ad hoc security services.
Needless to say, Commissioners, if I might just continue, after I stopped at ad hoc services, and only now in hindsight I can see, a smear campaign started against me. Number one, my qualifications, it was said that I misrepresented my qualifications. Number two, it was said that I received a 450,000 voucher. I don't know from who.
The Special Investigating Unit says the report into maladministration and academic fraud at the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape will be released in September. The SIU says its probe into the institution is at an advanced stage. SIU spokesperson Selby Mahatu says the investigation is progressing well in key focus areas.
The investigation is progressing well in key focus areas, and the completion date remains targeted for the 30th September 2026. However, this timeline may be affected by various factors, including the availability of witnesses, access to evidence, and the scope and timeframe of the investigation. Some issues date back more than 20 years, adding to the complexity of the investigation and requiring thorough examination.
Around 700 teachers are expected to march to the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Education offices in Pietermaritzburg this morning. They are demanding employment. The protesters are accusing the department of unfair hiring practices and failing to maintain a transparent employment database. Many of these teachers say they've been out of work for over a decade, despite being qualified in critical subjects like maths and science. One of the unemployed teachers, Mbali Duma, is demanding answers from the department.
Qualified educators, we are ready to teach learners. And there are schools without educators. There is a shortage in schools. Why are we not hired by the Department of Education? We want answers from the department. What is delaying them? Why are we still sitting at home not being employed? We don't have money to bribe people to give us jobs. We are depending on them to hire us.
Recapping the top story, oil prices have fallen sharply while Asian stocks surged, and the dollar was knocked back as a two-week Middle East ceasefire sparked a relief rally fueled by hopes that oil and gas flows through the Strait of Hormuz could resume. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Theft, accident, and 1 million rand third-party cover for your older car. Outsurance Essential has it all. Get a quote. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
Driving an older car, this is for you. For her 2015 Chevrolet Aveo, 49-year-old Esmeralda chose Outsurance Essential Car Insurance because she gets covered for full retail value if her car is stolen or hijacked. For these and many more benefits, Esmeralda pays only 449 Rand a month. Get Outsurance Essential Car Insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, soccer action with the Natal Rich Boys climbing the table, but their coach says Orlando Pirates can expect a tough night in Richards Bay. And we also bring you athletics with sprinters expected to light up the track at the Hezekiel Sepeng Invitational. Details around 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Driving up into Joburg from Ekurhuleni this morning. Delays on that N17 arriving into Wadeville. That's some roadwork, so delays from the Boxwork side. The N3 North heavy getting up into Heldnace into the lane restrictions, and a bit of a backlog coming out of the airport. R24 down to Barbara Road looking slightly slow. Some delays on the N1 and N3 approaches to Buccleuch. That then joins traffic flow slowly up towards Allendale Road. And if you're on the N1 North, a breakdown just after Malabongwe is the reason for the slowdown through the Randburg area. Looks pretty decent coming through Pretoria. No major problems along the N1 route. Leaving Pietermaritzburg, heading to Durban, stationary truck at Ashburton has been there a long time. Very heavy from Market Road this morning. Also, the N3 going in from Pavilion Mall towards Sherwood, quite busy. And if you're on the M19, Umgeda Road, a crash at Connaught Bridge. So coming through Springfield on your way to Durban, that's slow as well. Hibberdene has opened up this morning. The protesting on the N2 has been cleared. And Cape Town, heavy pressure around to noon with a crash on the N7 South on-ramp from Malabongwe Drive. Malabongwe Drive towards the N7, very heavy. Milnerton's Marine Drive slow through to Pardon Island, and the R300 North, a crash before Van Riddick Road being replaced with a stationary vehicle, so still some delays from Delft up to Kales River. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Spar Winner Car is back. Stand a chance to win one of 50 Hyundai Extras when you buy participating products. Like 2-litre Spar Extra Shelf Life Full Cream or Low-Fat Milk for $31.99, save 5 Rand. Or 200-gram Baker's Blue Label Murray Biscuits, buy any 2 for 33, save 11 Rand. Price is valid from 8 till 21 April. Shop, swipe and win while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
The National Briefing on SAFM. Clarity, context, and conversation. This is where the day begins with Cathy Mohlahlana on the National Briefing.
It's 9 after 8 o'clock. There we go, 9 after 8 o'clock. Welcome to the third hour of the National Briefing with myself, Cathy Mohlahlana. Coming up within this hour, we're going to be bringing you the briefing debate. And today we'll be focusing on immigration and communities in South Africa. That's the conversation we'll be focusing on, immigration and communities in South Africa. Coming up later on in the show, we'll of course also get into our built-in Mzansi feature, where we're bringing you some of the country's innovators, some of the country's builders, literally those that are pioneering in different sectors of our society, and that really give us hope, right, about what we can be as a nation. I see many of you are still reflecting on some of the interviews and stories we've done over the last 2 hours. We'll take some of those reflections. Yes, I know you probably want a way of being able to give your immediate feedback, especially to the reality check and the issues that Professor Bani Pichana has put on the table for the day. So what we're going to do is that we'll curate your feedback even after the show, and we'll pick some of the best points and thinking that has been brought forward, and we'll play that tomorrow before Prof. Pichana then gets into his reality check for the day. But yeah, we'll sort of play it by ear, and we'll see what we can do with that feature as the days unfold. So let's get then into our briefing debate for this morning. What began as a peaceful protest in the Eastern Cape has exposed a fault line in South Africa, and it continues to be one of the issues that we struggle to confront honestly. It's around immigration, identity, and the pressure that it places on already fragile communities in the country. So it's reignited a difficult conversation around how immigration impacts local communities. So you would have seen that march against and concerns raised around immigration, and in particular illegal immigration. But this was after the installation, or the reported installation, of an Igbo traditional leader within the Kugombo community in the Eastern Cape, in East London in particular. Now, this resulted in violence. Cars were torched. Police, of course, had to be called in to try and quell tensions in the community. Was this simply a cultural ceremony within a migrant community, or does it signal the emergence of parallel structures that challenge South Africa's sovereignty, and in particular local traditional leadership systems? And are communities justified in their concerns, or can this be seen as an escalation of anti-immigrant sentiment? Those are just the questions that we're asking in this debate and conversation. Let me welcome onto the show Thabiso Makwela, who is the Deputy President of the Progressive Forces of South Africa. Thabiso, good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners.
Professor Lauren Landau is a senior researcher with Wits University's African Center for Migration and Society. Professor Landau, good morning.
Good morning.
And Sharon Ekarambaram is head of the Refugee and Migrant Rights Program at Lawyers for Human Rights. Sharon, good morning to you.
Good morning, Cathy.
Let me thank you all for making time for this conversation. So this morning we are asking the question, was the community in the Eastern Cape justified around their concern over this escalation of an Igbo traditional leader that this is in fact a challenge to South Africa's sovereignty and a challenge to local traditional leadership systems? Or is it an escalation of anti-immigrant sentiment in the country? Tabiso, let me give you a minute and a half to go first.
No, thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, man. As Progressive Forces of South Africa, we believe that not all South Africans are actually xenophobic, and many South Africans are concerned about the law enforcement and the economical survival that they are currently facing. You know, being in South Africa without proper documentation is against the law. And wanting the law to be enforced, it's not necessarily by itself being xenophobic. South Africans, what you saw happening in the Eastern Cape, South Africans were simply reacting to the unemployment that they are facing. They were reacting to the crime that they have been complaining about. You know, the frustrations often are misdirected at foreigners. Because why? We are facing a challenge in a country whereby we have, you know, a lot of people advocating for lawlessness. And these are some of the people that you find in positions of authority. And at the end of the day, for a very, very long time, South Africans have been airing out their abuse. They have been complaining to relevant structures. There have been many matches that have been made and memorandums that have been submitted. So now, as a result of not getting what they are asking for, and we are seeing these actions.
So Tabi, according to you, what happened last week had very little to do with the fact that there was this supposed installation of an Igbo king per se, that it had more and provided more of an opportunity for South Africans to raise their concerns yet again around how they're being affected by illegal immigration?
In answering that, what I would say, it was a final nail on the straw. That one made it possible for South Africans to can actually now, you know, express themselves. Because for the longest time, South Africans have been pleading for the rule of law to be applied. And for the longest time, people have used this word xenophobic as a tool to can try and manage, you know, the expressions of South Africans. Because when you are saying somebody is xenophobic, you are actually talking about a feeling. But this is not what, in essence, what South Africans are saying. All South Africans have been repeatedly saying that we don't have a problem with people who are legally here, but we do have a problem with people that are illegally here, which is against the Constitution. That has nothing to do with feelings. It has nothing to do with whether you like the person or not. It's just applying the rule of law. So what you saw there was just a final nail in the coffin, like it happened in 1976. So South Africans reacted. And this is the same thing that we are seeing now happening today.
Professor Landau, your own take?
Obviously, I wasn't in the space. I don't know exactly what was happening, and we don't know who the specific individuals were. But I think there's an irony here of saying that we are interested in promoting the rule of law, and as such, we will take illegal action. If you want to compare it to 76, the law was being enforced. It was that the law itself was fundamentally unjust, and the resistance was to that. If what he's saying is that the laws and the systems that we have are unjust, let us protest. Let us not take it out on individuals. Let us fight the law. But I think we should all agree. We would like the rule of law to be enforced. But that law is not just about immigration. It's about how townships are governed. It's about the role gangsters, counselors, officials in home affairs play in criminality. We can't blame immigrants alone for what we see. The reason the military is now being deployed across the country is not because of immigration. It's because the rule of law is not being maintained. So South Africans have extremely real and genuine interest in being safer, in being more prosperous, and ensuring that the rules are followed. But it is not for South Africans alone to take that out on an individual group. And when you do that, it's where it goes from fighting for law to fighting against a group based purely on where they come from, or how they look, or how they behave, or how they organize. And that's where we start to see the society breaking down, fragmenting, not in the name of law, but in the name of one group against another.
Let me also then bring in Sharon. In fact, Sharon, let me do this. I'm going to take a quick break and then we'll continue with this conversation shortly.
SABC2 is bringing the heat. New shows, new faces, and stories that hit home, like the one I'm in called Pimville. And that's where you can catch me, Michelle Masalakai, every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. Live in every beat, the pulse of SA.
Get a free optical frame when you get tested at Specsavers this April. Purchase a comprehensive eye examination and get your optical frame free up to the value of 1,000 Rand. Choose your free frame from our wide range of trendy, affordable styles. Get tested today at your nearest Specsavers or book online. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
The National Briefing on SAFM. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
Well, this morning, or for this half hour, we're getting into our briefing debate, and we are unpacking what unfolded in the Eastern Cape last week, the protests over the installation of an Igbo leader, an Igbo chief, as it were, and how the local community responded to that moment. It resulted, of course, in scenes of violence in different parts of the town, where at least 10 cars, vehicles had been set alight. Some businesses also coming under threat from those protesters. Joining us on the line, Thabiso Makwela, Deputy President of the Progressive Forces of South Africa, Professor Lauren Landau, Senior Researcher with Wits University's African Center for Migration and Society, and Sharon Ekambaram, who is the head of the Refugee and Migrants Rights Program at Lawyers for Human Rights. So, Sharon, was the community justified in its concern, in particular around what it perceived as the establishment of of something that would be challenging or parallel to what is the local traditional leadership system?
Thank you. Firstly, I think that the violence was instigated by political opportunism in the form of Gayton McKenzie's Patriotic Front Alliance, Herman Mashaba's party, and March on March, organizations or individuals that are misdirecting the anger of poverty in our country. We remain one of the most unequal societies in the world, and that's because a tiny minority of people continue to own the wealth, and the majority of people are living in conditions that are appalling. And on top of all of this, we are witnessing, through what is being revealed at the Madlanga Commission, for example, corruption, the tender irregularities, fraudulent activities amounting to billions of rands. And I want to just give you one stat here, because to substantiate my point of how these forces, they're not all South Africans, it's not the whole of the Eastern Cape, it's individuals who are deliberately sowing divisions and targeting migrants. If you say there's about 5 million rand of fraud that's been uncovered through the Madlanga Commission, that would get 16,000 nurses for 1 year in our public health facilities. Now, that is the struggle that we need to be organizing ourselves around. We need to be holding the state to account for transparency and accountability at all levels of government. We can't be blaming approximately 3 million foreign nationals in a country of between 65 to 67 million people. And I think, Cathy, what concerns me and concerns us as people who are part of the struggle for social justice in our country is that why are we targeting Black African people from the African continent? That's the question. If it's foreigners that are causing the problem, if it's illegality, are we assuming, is it a prejudice that we assume that every Black African foreign national in our country is illegal? And that's the question. The disinformation that's being spread is of concern because people's lives are lost in this. We know that 67 people died in 2008. Continuously over the years, by spreading disinformation, people are killed in what is seen as mob justice. So I think that what we are concerned about is the rule of law, yes, but the rule of law, we have policies that respect our constitution, and that is what is meant to be speaking to transformation in our country. And I think my point is that in holding the state to account, we need to ask why, over 30 years into our democracy, our country is yet to be transformed from what we experienced during this period of apartheid, colonization, to today in a democratic dispensation.
Okay. Thanks for that, Sharon. Look, I find it quite interesting, right, that when we look at the driving factor, or the causal factor, effectively, for what sparked that protest last week, it was around the so-called installation coronation. In fact, at one of the protests, one of the marches that was held, a local traditional leader, Cathy Mohlahlana, said that local chiefs had been left feeling undermined as the area in which this supposed installation took place was the territory of the Xhosas. Do you think that we are interrogating that aspect enough? It speaks to integration within communities, right? And how people of different cultures are able to live together, but also how cultural expression manifests itself in our communities. Professor Landau?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to see when we have these conversations about how should migrants behave when they're in a foreign country, when they come to South Africa. And I think we have to look at the kind of different traditions that they bring with them. We can't expect them to become South Africans. We can't expect them to become Xhosa or Zulu or whatever. They are not that. They will be who they are. What do we expect from them? That they should obey the law, that they should respect our local customs, but they also need to have a voice. And when we look at the kind of leadership that a community has for itself, and I'm not saying they should have kings, I'm not saying any one particular version is right, but they need to have this. And from what I understand, this is a kingship that is not saying I am the absolute ruler of a place. It's saying I represent a community in this place. And yes, the language of king perhaps is unfortunate, but that is their tradition. And I think we have to come to terms with the fact that South Africa is a diverse society. People among South Africans have struggled to figure out what does it mean to live with each other. And this is a conversation that we have to continue to have. And it's not to say that everyone who stands up and says, I'm the leader, is justified in doing that. And that goes for South Africans, where you have local leaders who self-elect themselves, who rule by fear, who rule through violence, saying, I rule this area. And we've seen that in townships across the country. Similarly, an immigrant shouldn't be allowed to do that. But, of course, local leadership matters, and it must be respected wherever it comes
from. Tabiso, your own take on that?
Yeah. Let me just first address this point to say, first of all, PA was not at the march. And secondly, protesters were marching peacefully en route to hand over the memorandum. And when they got to a certain point, 2 of the protesters were attacked by foreign nationals. One was stabbed in the back by the knife, and the other one was hit by a car. That's when the scenes that you have seen on social media and on TV happened. So it was out of provocation. And on top of that, people were marching peacefully, following the law in terms of how they needed to hand over the memorandum. And that's what provoked the actions that you actually saw there. 2, unfortunately, the tension between foreign nationals and South Africans will always be there for as long as the state itself is not doing what it's supposed to be doing in terms of its framework. And this is quite often a mixture of 2 things that are actually leading to this. And the legal consent that South Africans have vis-a-vis the attitude of South Africans towards foreigners. And this is because of the economical frustrations that South Africans are facing. It is because of the competition within the informal sector that South Africans are facing, and the weak enforcement of immigration laws in the country as the government, and also the misinformation and the stereotypes that is being fueled when it comes to South African consent. And quite often, these pressures can turn the legal consent into a general hostile attitude towards foreigners, and which now, this is where you actually hear words like South Africans being xenophobic comes from. And yet the genuine issue here is that we are just advocating for the law to be implemented, which is what people were doing when they were marching there. Okay. We have had all kinds of people coming here. For an example, I would make a simple example and say English people came here, but they have never attempted to install a king here. Instead, they integrated and they stayed with us peacefully. Chinese came here. They have never tried to do what African foreigners have done. And you can name it, Chinese, Indians, white people, all of them. They did that, and they've never ever tried to install a king here. But these ones, they come here, they break the laws, and they don't even follow what they were supposed to follow in terms of speaking to Copta and
Tabiso,
how to introduce themselves.
We're going to have to leave it there for this morning. It's time for your latest news headlines.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the Nkabinde inquiry into South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office, will resume today. 2 key witnesses are set to take centre stage after the inquiry's Easter recess. Action SA Member of Parliament Dereline James is expected to lay criminal charges against the Social Development Minister Sisi Sitolashe at the Cape Town Central Police Station today. The move follows allegations that the minister failed to declare luxury vehicles allegedly received from Chinese officials. And oil prices have fallen sharply while Asian stocks surged, and the dollar was knocked back as a 2-week Middle East ceasefire sparked a relief rally fueled by hopes that oil and gas flows through the Strait of Hormuz could resume. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Currently 2 delays on Joburg's N3. One is the run from the cement factory through to Van Buren up into the lane, well, the traffic barrier area at Hell's Nest. That's still very slow on your way up. There's also a broken down vehicle in that mix as well. Probably explains why it's so slow so later in the morning. And then the N3 further up, staying northbound between London Road and Marlborough Drive. The crash there by the Limbo Park exit, so that's quite heavy on your way through to Buccleuch. Interchange. R21 up to Pretoria, queuing at Clayville into that sinkhole lane closure section there. 2 or 3 lanes closed, and the pressure is on in terms of queues that are highly visible. Durban's Umgenero going from Springfield through Connaught Bridge area is slow. There's been a big crash here this morning, taking a while to clear up. Hibberdine is open along the N2 corridor. If you need to go Durban through Port Shepstone, you can do that. There may be a little bit of disruption just off the N2 on the R102, just north of the N2. But the N2 itself is moving okay, although I just see a little touch of a slowdown again there, so we'll keep an eye on that. And Cape Town this morning, the N1 inbound, pretty slow down to Sable Road. More queues through Woodstock over the elevated freeway. And Marine Drive queuing up at Loxton Road, that's Woodbridge Island. And then another queue shortly after as you run through Milnerton down towards Pardon Island's Milner Road Junction. Also worth a mention today, the main road, very heavy. St James, Cork Bay, all the way down to Clovelly. If you're on your way to Fishhook, it's a lot of traffic going slow. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai Khan, I see Richards Bay returning to winning ways, but the coach does have some warnings.
Yeah, Cathy, big talk, as they say. They sound very brave, Richards Bay, but you don't poke pirates unless you're ready for a proper response. So we'll get a response from the Pirates coach as well as Richards Bay, their coach, Papi Zotwane, saying they're ready for their challenge against Orlando Pirates after they had a 2-1 win over Stellenbosch, with Zotwane saying that Pirates should not expect an easy trip to Umhlatuze.
It's going to be a difficult game. They're chasing for a league. And for us, always it's better for our day. Every time we play at home, it's easy to beat us. So they're not coming at their own team. They just want to win the match. So it's going to be a tough game, and I think we'll be ready for the match.
Now, Orlando Pirates head coach Abdusalam Wadu saying the title race is good for the PSL's brand and reiterated they're ready to fight till the last day of the season. And this after their 5-0 victory over Golden Arrows last night. And Wadu saying it was a game of absolute dominance from Pirates with 31 shots at goal, 10 on target. And he says that they still will look forward to facing their last 7 matches of the season.
A lot of people thinking that maybe it was a little bit of luck against Test Galaxy. We can see that when our team, when our boys start to find the net to be efficient in the last third. And it's not only that game, we've been seeing our team creating a lot of chances since the beginning of the season, middle of the season, and now we start to see when we arrived at the end that they start to score. So I think it's a very good evening. I'm very proud of our boys tonight. I'm a very proud coach tonight, and we are going to, like I told you, we are going to fight until the end. It's good for the interest of the PSL this season. I think the fans love it, and what we can say that Pirate will not give up until the end of the season.
Well, there we go. More soccer now. And it's the Durban City interim head coach, Pitso Dladla, insisting their place in the Nedbank Cup final will not derail the club's focus in the Betway Premiership. The Citizens have exceeded expectations in their return to top flight football. Now, in the Nedbank Cup, they had a Kazrick Stars being edged 1-0 at Chatsworth Stadium over the weekend. Dladla praising the club's leadership.
We are managed by capable a team led by our chairman, with the board of directors, our GM. You should know that they are not new in football. They've been in this game for more than two decades. So all these things are not only managed by us, the technical team and the players, but it needs the strong leadership, because if
Moving to cricket, the Rajasthan Royals are top of the IPL after a 27-run win over the Mumbai Indians in Guwahati. Yasvi Jaiswal led the charge with an unbeaten 77 of just 32 balls as the Royals posted 150 for 3 in a rain-shortened match. Mumbai struggled in reply, finishing on 123 for 9. And finally, athletics, the Hezekiel Sepeng Invitational in Potchefstroom has been postponed, and that's due to heavy rain and lightning at the NW MacArthur Stadium. Half the track was flooded, forcing organisers to call off the meeting. The event will now continue today from 4 p.m. That's your sport. We'll be back with more around 12:30 with John Herika. I'm Zai Khan.
EFC returns to Johannesburg this Thursday. The undisputed heavyweight champion, Matunga Triple H Jikasa,
and Triple H Power is back on top of the mountain.
Takes on the undefeated Senegalese warrior, Adama Diop.
Adama Diop takes the KO.
Plus, middleweight contenders collide as JT Botha battles Mwandile Hlongwa. EFC 132, live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Talk about the Champions Cup action from the past weekend and the EPCR and the various tournaments that are taking place internationally. Joined on the line by rugby correspondent Khotso Selo. Khotso, is it in a way a blessing in disguise for the South African teams? Yes, they're out of that particular tournament, but as you say now, they can focus fully on URC action going forward. And with 3 South African sides in the top 8, we could have 4 South African sides in the knockouts for that competition.
No, 100%. And I think it was a bit of a grudge match. So the Bulls, remember, they had hosted the Glasgow Warriors in the previous edition of a final of the United Rugby Championships at Loftus. I think for the Bulls, to get their season going, I think in the back of their minds, they wanted to give, Glasgow a bit of a taste of their own medicine, so to speak. And it wasn't to be for the Vodacom Bulls.
Top Sport on SAFM. Call SAFM now on 086 000 2032.
All right, you're listening to the National Briefing with myself, Cathy Mohlahlana, with you until 9 o'clock. So I'm going to take some of your calls. The number to dial for our studio line, 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. And on the WhatsApp voice note line, you can send those WhatsApp voice notes to 0614 104 107. So, yeah, I know that we've covered a number of topics this morning. So let me just get some of your reflections. Denzel, you are is it Morukweng in East London? Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. How are you? Fine.
I'm well, thank you. Oh, you want to talk about East London?
Yes, Cathy. I was just adding here, man. Everything that happens in our country today, I blame the government. Because, everything that the foreigners are doing is so normal. See, like I make an example about Sunnyside. It's ruled, I've seen it myself, it's ruled by Nigerians. And it's just normal. And when the government maybe acts, the human rights is going to get in and say, no, they've got the human rights. I mean, if somebody goes to your place and do what you want, you must act. The government used to give these people IDs illegally just to get votes. Now, they were shooting themselves in the foot. Now, see what's happening because of them. Our government is to be blamed for this. In the apartheid time, there was law and order. There was nothing like that. I've lived in apartheid. I experienced it. We knew there is law and order. Nowadays, there's no law and order. All these things that's happening, that's making we, the residents and the citizens of South Africa unhappy. It's because of our government. We cannot go to Nigeria and do something like that. They will never allow that. If the government must start doing what we voted them for, everything will come right.
And Denzel, to the extent that in this instance, there was no particular law that was broken.
The law that's broken, can you go? That's already law. They break the law. How can I go to your house and just go and do what I want there? I visit your place and I just go there. You don't allow liquor in your house and I come with liquor there and just do what I want there. It's already unlawful.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a typical example that I'm making to you. You will not allow me to go and do what I wish to do. You've got your laws at your place, Mos. Isn't it like that? And they will never allow us to go and do that in their country. Even here, we're struggling with this Ethiopians. They come here and they just bully the people like they want, and they buy stolen things. Yeah, I'm talking about now Morocco, where I stay. They buy now and then. We must go and attend something that one of the foreigners, somebody stole a cow. He just bought a cow from somebody, and it don't worry even. Is encouraging crime. They all encouraging crime.
Okay.
We're fighting these things left, right, and center. The foreigners coming from there and come and just buy stolen things.
Let's leave it there. Okay. All right, Denzel in Morocco. Jabu, you are in Four Ways. Good morning.
Good morning, kids. How are you?
Good. Go for it, Jabu.
Look, for me, I think the issue of the Nigerian king, there is nothing wrong with it. I think South Africans are just jealous. For an example, how many South African kings and chiefs and who are not recognized? How many South Africans have we had that have installed themselves as chiefs and all, and they are not recognized by Cocta, they are not recognized by government, but they still hold court and they like. The second thing, our constitution, it allows for self-determination. Like foreigners, once they are here, legally or whatsoever they like, they are protected by the constitution, and the constitution is clear. They can declare themselves kings, queens, chiefs under the section of self-determination. It doesn't mean that the government has to recognize them. As much as the government doesn't recognize lots of our self-installed kings. The third point, they've got Orania, which is a white African settlement. They have declared self-determination. They don't want to say a black person. They say on themselves under discrimination, but they're saying they're following the constitution in terms of self-determination. Why haven't black people banned schools and banned buses for segregated area whatsoever they like? So for me, it really is neither here nor there. I mean, the constitution, once I'm in the country, I can actually declare my house to be a tribal kingdom. No one can stop me. But it doesn't mean that government must recognize me or government whatsoever. So I really don't understand this. Finally, there's a caller that said the British never installed their king. He's making a mistake. We were under the British crown for a long period of time. Areas like East London, Port Elizabeth, we were under the British crown. So I see nothing wrong with what the Nigerians have done.
Okay.
They exercise self-determination under the constitution.
Jabu, let's leave it there. Molatelo in Polokwane, good morning.
Morning, Cathy. How are you?
Good, Molatelo, go for it.
Yes. Look, Cathy, the American has been defeated. And then, because you can remember that they don't have enough wealth for movement. And then it has cost a lot of money for the Americans. And now Trump should go to the parliament and request the budget to expand the war, something that is not good to get. So this is just a matter of Trump to say, no, they have defeated, and they will never say that. America has defeated in Iraq because Iraqians have told themselves that they are going to fight until the last person drops. And they're doing that. They're doing that to defend the sovereignty of the country and the people of Iraq. Though, yes, we understand that most of the people of Iraq do not like the government of the day. But those people, they fought for their rights and for their country. And then Americans have defeated. Trump have defeated in Iraq.
Okay. So, Molatelo, that's your view. I know that there'll be others who have a very different view to the one that you hold. We're going to take a quick break and then we're back with our final story of the day.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Kick it off in Joburg with an update on the very busy N3. There are some queues still with us on the run in towards Heldenace. A breakdown this morning, as well as the barriers that are out there. So just coming past Cement Factory up to Van Buren, it is a touch on the brakes and a bit of a slowdown. But the heavier queue is northbound after that from Modderfontein Road up to Limbro Park into an earlier crashing just by the Marlborough Drive exit. Looking at on the run from Pretoria, if you're joining from Montana or coming through Pumalani Plaza, all clear on the run down through Midrand and into Joburg. So that's good news. Northern parts of KZN roadworks are back after the Easter holiday. Piet Retief, just south of town, there's multiple stop goes, and then just north of the town, there's some more stop goes. And if you're on your way between Piet Retief and Ermelo, there is a truck crash halfway through near Cheapmore. Just expect some delays there. N2 at Hibberdeen has been reopened for quite some time. Even the R102, there was some queues just off the highway with protesting that moved from the highway onto the R102, but that area seems to be okay. You may just find a little diversion, but no major backlog that we had earlier. Still dealing with a very serious crash on Umgeda Road at Springfield, although it's almost out of the way. And Cape Town this morning, it's been moderately busy rather than the heavy stuff that you might be used to. The N2 inbound from Langa slow, the N1 from about N1 City through Sable Road, and then from Kuburg interchange, busy all the way through to the city centre. And just a reminder of the heavy traffic on Main Road around Clovelly. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call SAFM now on 086 000 2032.
Hi, Cathy. This is my corners from Johannesburg. I just want to say kudos to you about the reality check slot. It is so interesting and I like it. And I enjoy just how Professor Pichana was analyzing. And we're looking forward, going forward with other people analyzing in the coming weeks. But this is wonderful and great initiative indeed. And keep it up.
Morning, Cathy. The sergeant kept 50,000 rand under his mattress and sensitive robbery police dockets. The president kept $7 million in his couch. And like that sis lady said, they all have small manana skeletons in their closet. Vince Cape Town.
Okay, Cathy Mohlahlana and the SAFM listener. I think like those police in Mitchell's Plain in Cape Town, they're supposed to use in that mentality in KZN. Whereby like those people they using the gun, they don't step in each other. They need to shoot them. If they find you like with a gun, they need to shoot you so that the people they are afraid of dying. They don't want to be shot, but they want to shoot the other people. But if you're going to treat them by say like we'll arrest them, the judges will say like there's no evidence. They come back again doing the same thing.
The National Briefing on SAFM, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
All right, our final conversation of the morning. We're getting into our Built in Mzansi. We're featuring the innovators, the entrepreneurs, the people that are actively building this country, making it better through stories of solutions and innovation. Let me welcome onto the show this morning Daniel Ndima. He is the CEO of Cape Bio. Well, let's tell you a little bit about Cape Bio. Cape Bio specializes in the structural biology of infectious diseases. And part of what they did was that under COVID-19, they developed the first locally produced PCR tests during that health crisis. Daniel, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to your listeners at home.
It feels a little bit like a lifetime ago, right? But certainly what you managed to do under COVID-19 and the PCR test was not only innovative, but it was also pioneering at a time where it was very difficult for us to access some of the products that were available on the global market because things had been completely shut down.
Absolutely, Cathy, and thanks so much for inviting me. Yes, indeed. PCR is actually a technique that is widely used to detect infectious diseases, but it's also used for detecting diseases such as cancer. So what we did initially was to build the capability around it so that we can develop products for detecting infectious diseases like COVID-19, but also to expand the repertoire around infectious diseases. You talk about HIV and AIDS, you talk about STIs, etc. So PCR can actually alleviate a reliance on imports that we still experience as a country.
What makes the work that you do so important, Daniel?
Think about a spontaneous outbreak of an infectious disease that can emanate at any time. And next pandemic, as we say, think about epidemics that can emerge out of nowhere. Think about a monkeypox that is now one of the biggest problems in on the continent. So our capability allows us to be able to pivot quickly to develop a solution like that. So if there is an outbreak, for example, in South Africa, in South African waters, we are able to come through and provide a solution for that particular problem. So the importance of our business is around its capability to pivot quickly, to be able to develop any diagnostic test kit for any disease, basically.
Many people, of course, look at South Africa. Yes, we've got a very strong health sector, but perhaps we're not fully exposed to just how advanced we are and just how capable we are, especially if we think about our competitiveness on the international landscape. Speak to me a bit about that, and being a company out of South Africa that is able not only to do this, but that can compete with any other company on the world stage.
Yes, Kevi. I mean, there are examples of businesses that have emerged within the healthcare sector, whether from pharmaceuticals, whether you're talking about diagnostics or reagents for diagnostics. And really, we leverage that energy and those experiences for us to be able to place ourselves on the global market. And I think our strength relies actually in the human capital that we have as a country. I think we have highly qualified scientists, engineers. We are able to develop any solution in that regard. We do have an ecosystem that really works together to fulfill some of these mandates that we have. It's just a matter of expansion and ensuring that there is a broader participation across the value chain, in as far as procurement of these technologies that are developed locally, in as far as ring-fencing some of these research and development activities via tax incentives. And there's so much more that we can do, but we definitely have capabilities and abilities to be able to scale some of the technologies and know-hows.
I really like one of the mantras that you stand by, which is that science creates jobs. And I wonder how you see that in the context of South Africa, where we're struggling with creating jobs in various industries. How do you think science and that field can perhaps be an answer to this problem?
It's a simple formula. We have to put science at the center of the economy. I think if you look at countries that do not have the kind of endowment in terms of mineral resources that we have as a country, have put science at the heart of their economy. You talk about South Korea, you talk about US, it is where it is because of its scientific prowess, and so many more. I think if we ought to place science at the heart of the economy, ensuring that science serves the broader society other than just a few or very skewed kind of narrative around science, whether we talk about young people that are taking it up, it's because they are not seeing its fruits out there. They're not seeing its impact, much more holistically in terms of their lives. I think if we were to do that, we'll start to turn things around for the country and ensuring that we're able to employ young people. I mean, there's so much more in the value chain. We talk about indigenous knowledge systems that needs to be modernized. You talk about AI, you talk about diagnostics, you talk about the next lines of therapeutics. So those are the new themes that are coming that requires us to be ready and ensure that we can sustain the industry.
Daniel, before I let you go, I know there'll be some entrepreneurs, some innovators listening to you who are thinking, how did they do it? How did Cape Bio do it? How did you do it?
I think the initial intention around what we wanted to achieve, and obviously, we do face other limitations as well, but we try by all means to pivot to ensure that we stay within our mission, and ensure that we leverage whatever we can leverage to ensure that we continue to innovate and contribute to the IP index of the country.
Daniel Ndima, he is the CEO of Cape Bio. And as you heard there, they specialize in producing some of those critical tests needed to diagnose individuals, all done locally. What a great story to end off the show. That is our feature built in Mzansi. I guess it's also a good note then for us to say goodbye on the national briefing. For today, the show is back with you again tomorrow between 6 and 9 a.m. Looking forward to the journey yet again. Up next, we're going to throw forward to the Daily Discourse with Joanne Joseph.
In our top stories, Nkabinde inquiry resumes with 2 new witnesses and Action SA MP to lay criminal charges against Minister Tolashe. Good morning. The Nkabinde inquiry into South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office will resume today. 2 key witnesses are set to take centre stage after the inquiry's Easter recess. Former KwaZulu-Natal Hawks head Major General Johan Boysen and Advocate Shireen Riley are among those expected to give evidence. Boysen's testimony is anticipated to focus on high-profile investigations and past clashes with the National Prosecuting Authority. Alris Mashaba reports.
Boysen's and Riley's evidence come after the conclusion of Chauke's testimony. Chauke has denied any wrongdoing, insisting that his decisions were lawful and taken independently. However, retired National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batoy, disagrees. She said Chauke had brought the NPA into disrepute and recommended the inquiry into his fitness to hold office. The matter is expected to be decided by the end of May, when the panel will submit their report to President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Civil society organisation, the Forum for South Africa, FOSA, says Police Sergeant Fanny Nkosi's arrest must be the start of a wider probe. FOSA has warned against targeting only middlemen while the real culprits go free. This as Nkosi remains in custody until the 13th of this month for bail application. Nkosi faces charges including theft and possession of illegal ammunition following a raid at his Pretoria home. This all came after Nkosi's testimony at the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry into criminality in the country's criminal justice system. Tebuho Mashilompane is FOSA's national leader.
It's clear and simple. Investigations must start also from the top. Even if you start it at the back, but you must ultimately go up. Because we don't want a situation where the network still continues, as long as the top ones are not arrested. But we hear that there's fear of people investigating certain type of people, the politicians and the powerful. They are scared to investigate them.
Action SA Member of Parliament Derelene James is expected to lay criminal charges against the Social Development Minister, Sisisi Tolashe, at the Cape Town Central Police Station today. The move follows allegations that the minister failed to declare luxury vehicles allegedly received from Chinese officials. James says the charges stem from what she describes as a deceitful attempt to conceal benefits that may amount to a breach of ethics and possibly the law.
It will be for corruption. We believe that these gifts, it could be alleged that she obviously received it in the form of gratification. We're not sure for what. That is what the investigation will reveal. And those are the charges that we will be laying today. We will also be reporting this matter to the Ethics Committee in Parliament, also for violating the code in terms of obviously not also disclosing these vehicles to Parliament.
Gauteng Education MEC Lebogang Maile is expected to visit the Riverlee Secondary School following a fire that destroyed parts of the school. A library, 2 storerooms and a science lab have been damaged by the blaze. Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson Xolile Khumalo says they managed to put down the blaze.
EMS firefighters responded to a fire incident call yesterday evening in Riverlee. The incident took place in Riverlee Secondary School on corner Juma and Japura Streets. The fire incident destroyed 3 classrooms, a laboratory and a library. The cause of fire is undetermined.
And finally, oil prices have fallen sharply while Asian stocks surged, and the dollar was knocked back as a 2-week Middle East ceasefire sparked a relief rally fueled by hopes that oil and gas flows through the Strait of Hormuz could resume. The BBC's Nick Marsh has the details.
The ceasefire agreement has clearly brought relief to energy markets, allowing tankers that are already on the water to cross the Strait of Hormuz for the next 2 weeks will provide a much-needed boost in supply, especially to countries in Asia running low on oil and gas. But it's only temporary relief. To an extent, the economic damage has already been done. Analysts estimate it'll take months to restart oil production and logistics, which has collapsed in the Middle East due to the blockage in the strait.
Recapping the top story, the Nkabinde inquiry into South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office will resume today. 2 key witnesses are set to take centre stage after the inquiry's Easter recess. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
SABC2 is doing big things, and that's why I am here. I'm talking new shows, fresh energy, and stories that are going to move you. Pimville is just the beginning. I am Mandla Gaduka. Catch me Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. Live in every beat, the pulse of SA.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The Daily Discourse on SAFM with Joanne Joseph, unpacking the issues that matter. The Daily Discourse on SAFM, weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
Good morning and welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Daily Discourse with me, Joanne Joseph. The team is in with you this morning. Genelwe and Melissa are producers, Zelma at the controls and Amos behind the camera. Yes, we do have a camera. If you haven't watched us live, you're welcome to do that as well. We are on so many different platforms, so make use of them this morning as you communicate with us. If you'd like to watch the show rather than listen to it, because we do stream from our SAFM website as well, you are more than welcome to watch us on Facebook or or X, formerly Twitter. We're tracking lots of interesting stories for you this morning, and as usual, we'll start with our open line. So remember how you can contact us. Our studio line number 086 000 2032. You can talk to us or send us a voice note on WhatsApp 0614 104 107. Please keep your voice notes to between 30 and 45 seconds long. You can also watch us on DST or listen to us on DSTV. It is on channel 814, and then you can talk to us on any of the platforms on which we are active. We're there on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we are at SAFM Radio on X, and of course we are waiting to hear from you. So we are recapping a number of stories today, looking at what happened at the Fani Nkosi appearance yesterday. You may have been with us yesterday when the start of that was delayed, but it eventually got underway. So we are looking at what happened there. His place was raided, of course, we know, a week before. Police found 50,000 rand under his mattress. He didn't manage to get bail yesterday. He's being held at the Kgosi Mampuru Prison Hospital next week, and he'll appear in court again on the 13th of this month. And of course, he ties in with the Madlanga Commission that we will be carrying live from 10 o'clock this morning. So for those of you who want to get your dose of the Madlanga action, join us from 10 o'clock just after the news bulletin. We'll make sure that we connect with our colleagues there. Many people this morning looking to the Western Cape, wondering how so many people have died in the last 5 days in Mitchell's Plain when the SANDF is there. I mean, that community has waited long enough for some kind of action, and now that the army has actually been deployed there, they were hoping to have seen a difference in the levels of violence that community has been experiencing over the last few years. Sadly, and strangely, I think that has not happened in the last few days. And of course, it's an area where there's a very unique set of circumstances. We're looking at the issues of gangsterism and so forth. It seems the centre of town has now become a no-go area because of what has happened in recent days. And, you know, apparently there were pockets of Mitchell's Plain that were safe areas in the past. That has changed in the last few weeks and months. And so we're going to also talk to you a little bit more. If you are on the ground there in Mitchell's Plain, if you live in the area, please just give us an insight into what you're seeing on the ground there. Is the military there? Are you seeing active patrols there? I mean, we understand they can't be all over Mitchell's Plain. It's quite a wide area. But just give us a sense of what you're experiencing on the ground. Do you feel any safer? And are you feeling that their interventions are making a difference to your life in any way? Moving further afield, there's a general sense of relief this morning about the temporary ceasefire between the United States and Iran. We know the oil price dropped immediately, and in a short while we're going to try and get an update on how our markets opened in response to that news. Of course, they were closed when it happened. But we're also going to explore the political aspect with Naeem Jina in a little while. He's a Middle East expert, and he's going to bring us some analysis on that 10-point plan and what it means. I mean, of course, very superficially you hear there's a ceasefire, and you hear that the Strait of Hormuz is now going to be open to traffic. But what does the 10-point plan deal with? And for how long does it guarantee any kind of peace in the Middle East? So we'll be taking a look at that in just a short while. I'd love to hear from you on that story as well. And then to come back home for a moment, there's this Riverlee story. Bothers me a lot because we know that this happened last year, and now Riverlee Secondary has been burning again. We know that a few different rows in the school were set alight last year, right? It seems a different part of the school has been set alight now, more specifically the laboratory and the library. Now, if we look at the danger around this, I mean, any kind of fire in a community, particularly in a school, poses a great danger to the people who frequent that property and live around it. And certainly it poses the biggest risk to the children in all sorts of ways. Were there to be any children while the fire is burning, of course it poses kind of bodily and physical risk to them, but it also poses the long-term risk to their learning, right? And the fact that it's happened twice in 2 years is a very worrying development indeed. It's bad enough that a laboratory burnt with all the chemicals that abound in a laboratory. You can well imagine what kind of danger that would put children in, even after the fact. And then, on a more philosophical level, the library. How does anyone find it in them to set fire to a library? A library, in a way, is is just that receptacle of knowledge in a school, at a university, in any place of learning, right? And the fact that our children are struggling to read, that our children do not have access to books the way they ought to, the fact that it is difficult in this day and age to even get our children to read when they do have access to books, says to me that we have very little respect for books, for reading, for knowledge in general in our society. And when I see a library burn, it really breaks my heart, because it says to me the future of our children is compromised by those actions. So I'd like to hear from you on that story as well. The numbers again, our studio line 086 000 2032, our WhatsApp line 0614 104 107, and if you're listening in on DSTV channel 814, you are welcome to call in as well. So let's take a couple of calls from our listeners right now. I understand that we have Load on the line. I'm not sure what area you're from. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Joanne. How are you?
Morning there. So well, thanks. Hope you are too.
Good, my sister. I'm here in Alberton.
Great, welcome.
Good, my sister. Now I want to weigh in the ongoing saga or debate pertaining the cabinet reshuffle under Premier Lesotho in Gauteng.
Yes.
Yes, my sister. The ANC, from the national level, they've adopted what we can refer as a strategic coalition framework, which must be a guide on how to navigate through this sojourn called coalition government. But one can one can postulate that the Premier, Lesotho, he has never aligned himself with such guidelines, because there are discomforts from both our Youth League and the Veterans League structures concerning this matter. And there are even rumblings and grumblings amongst members on the ground. The reason being that the very same EFF party has pronounced that they want to surgically remove the ANC from power. And for Premier Lesotho to give Nkululeko Dunga that very strategic position of finance in Gauteng, I don't think it was a wise move. And then as members on the ground, we cannot be happy-clappy and embrace such a move, because it's much of something else other than driving the agenda which the AS is pursuing.
Yes, Load, thank you very much for that. I mean, I think it's a curious alliance in so many ways. I was taken aback myself to see that the EFF had been put in charge of finance. We have an individual here, and you may have heard him speak on Cathy's show this morning, but you have an individual here whose governance was called into question, right, in his previous